That
Aloha.
interest, that countdown. We have to replace that countdown with something else.
Hey man, it works though for now. For now, hello, no
Well,
one,
hello, Lucas.
everyone.
How's it going? Everybody,
Um,
everybody watching.
hello to the everyone watching.
You never know, though. Afterwards, when it's finished being live, then there might be a difference there.
Oh, it's always true. It's true. Also, I mean, being facetious, but it's it does take a few minutes for the notification to go out to everyone that things are happening, that movement is being made.
That's right, man. It's
Oh,
not been a long time since Sunday.
it hasn't. No, no. But
The Rangs of Power.
the rangs of power, the rangs of power. But we've, I mean, people seem to have responded nicely to our
To the Rings of
scathing
Power.
our scathing review of the Rings of Power. Um, yeah, that show hasn't. I mean, just. I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit today because we're going to talk about it in comparison. So I'm not going to go into it massively yet, but like, that show hasn't done between like Sunday and now, like the taste it's left just keeps getting more and more sour.
It does.
And I'm just
It
like,
does. Whenever I think about it, to me, it's already just this footnote that I don't care about. I'm moving on with my life. It really does feel like that. And me of all people, how could this be?
how could it be indeed? You tell me. But yeah, no, I mean it's I think what's exhausting me with Rings of Power is not even so much the quality issue of the show, but the drama, the kind of online drama that surrounds this
Yes.
show.
What the hell is going on? What's
It
going
just
on? Have they all gone mad?
it just doesn't seem to end,
It
and I
doesn't. It doesn't seem
yeah,
to end. It will never end. It
and
will never end.
I think when shows and movies and books, when they get so politicized, it becomes so exhausting because it you know
You're
I
missing. Yeah.
messaged I tweeted and I messaged you today about it, but I was like, it feels like Amazon has made it uncool to be a fan of Lord of the Rings now, like
Mm-hmm.
because you're not a fan of Lord of the Rings. It's about politics now and about you know certain things like that. I'm just like, I just want to go and enjoy Lord of the Rings. I don't want this to be some catastrophe. Like there was an article that just really set a fire under my seat. That was in the from I think NBC or something like that, NBC News, where the opinionist was saying how Tolkien was actually racist, and
Ah, yes.
it infuriated me because it was the most cherry picked, kind of poorly researched thought piece imaginable. Because like he just wasn't like he wasn't racist. He was there was many instances where he was you know making clear his anti-racist opinions, and
I remember some letters from Tolkien where he
yeah,
mentioned, especially
yes,
the part with World War II involved, and is like,
yes, yep. He was very open about like his thoughts on some of this stuff. He wasn't racist, and his work isn't either. And the irony is people make these comments about like orcs and stuff, and it's like, well, orcs are literally just meant to
I
be a manifestation of evil. That's it. They're not like there is light and dark, and it's not meant to. That has nothing to do with skin color, but it's a matter of like the heart, right? The darkness is not to do with skin. The lightness is not to do with skin. And also with Lord of the Rings as well, it's like you're saying all this stuff. You're saying he's being racist like this, but like the most evil people in Lord of the Rings are the white people. Like like Sauron and the elves and the Numenorians. Like they're nothing. Is that what they're called?
Saruman.
Saruman. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's frustrating me because it was such a cherry picked article, and
Yeah.
then there's a really great moment with Sam in the Return of the King. I think it's Return of the King, where he sees the dead soldier on the ground, and like his thought process is,
Mm.
I wonder if this guy is actually evil, or if he's just been like, if he's just doing his duty, or if he's just kind of been made to come on this quest. Um,
Yeah. It was so good that they put it in the movie. Faramir says that in the movie,
Faramir does, yes,
but
and I'm
Sam thinks of it in the book. Yes.
mm, and it's
I
a
ought to
great,
know.
yeah, it's a great moment, because it's getting at the heart of what Tolkien is doing, and Tolkien is talking about, again, matters of the heart, not matters of the flesh, not
War will make corpses of us all.
yes, not what we look like. And again, when people are like, oh, because he's talking about the West, which is the
Dude,
positive
Bill
side of the
Fernie, I
East.
forgot about him. He's just a pale white man. He was also a
Yeah,
villain in his own
yeah,
right at the end of the book, Scouring of the Shire. Comes
yep,
back from bullying people in Bree, and then he becomes, yeah. Then he's over there in the
yeah,
Shire causing
yeah.
problems,
It's like,
problems.
exactly. So you can't like really cherry pick. You shouldn't cherry pick these arguments because there's so much more going on. It's like being ignored in Tolkien's work when people say things like this. And again, like when they were saying, oh well, he's depicted the West as the goodies and the East as the baddies. Tolkien has said many times that this isn't a depiction of our real world. This isn't a reflection of. It's a fantasy world that has nothing to do with the real world that we live in. And like
Mm.
mythologically speaking, like a lot of myths deal with duality, like the duality of humankind, the our good side versus our bad
The
side, our
light and the
indulgence,
dark.
our indulgence versus our restraint,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And that's all Lord of the Rings is. It's our the duality of good versus evil, and what do we do to keep evil at bay? So yeah, it's just that
It's
article really.
nonsense. This just you just turned it into like this. You put it into this fire that's going on because let's face it, the only reason all this stuff is popping up is because some kind of powerful force in the East is. Well, I mean, yeah, you could call it the East if it's Ireland where they have the copyright. Where they have the holding company to dodge taxes. But
Well,
it's just
no, Ireland is
very
Ireland is
afraid
west from
because
us.
they're what? From you, but East from the U.S., I guess. I don't know. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, true, true. So is England.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, pretty much. Just because this company just doesn't is can't cope with the fact that it's not doing very good.
Well, I think that's the thing.
Billion
Again,
dollar show.
another interesting thing. I know we mentioned this at our on our review. Amazon isn't for 72 hours. They block reviews. Well, it's been more than 72 hours. I have clicked on the button that says "Be the first to review this." I have left a review, and that was 2 days ago. At the moment, there are still 0 reviews on Amazon UK for Rings of
Is it
Power.
really not showing yet?
No reviews are showing.
Wh- What is it gonna show? Never.
I mean, I think never. Yeah, I think they are going to cherry pick. I think they're going to cherry. I've screenshot so I can show it to people later. But I think they're going to cherry pick the best reviews and just make sure only the 3, 4, and 5s go up, not the 1s and the 2s.
That's
What?
completely. That's so petty. But it's just.
I think so.
I guess if you have the. I guess if you have the power to do it, then you just do that. That's all you do. Basically.
Yeah.
What else
So
can you
it's an
do?
interesting game that they're playing, and I think that's what I'm saying. That like all this stuff makes it not fun to engage with. It's why certain films, certain Marvel films and TV shows that when they lean into this stuff and like try and it's Star Wars, particularly Star Wars with Obi-Wan and all that kind of stuff,
Star
and
Wars is a big one right now. Yeah,
they
big one.
they really lean into this kind of rhetoric of these attacks and stuff. It's like, well, it's like here's that's why I liked Ewan McGregor's response to it, where he's like, if you're doing this stuff, you're a jackass and you're not a real fan. I don't consider you a fan. And I'm like, correct. So it would be wise for every media company, every company who is producing anything like this to just use that same sort of tactic and say, hey, if you are doing this, we do not consider you a fan. You are a piece of shit, and go away. Because if you are attacking the cast for, whatever, whether
Yeah,
you're being
who does?
sexist,
Why would you
racist,
do
whatever,
that?
then no one considers you a real fan anyway. They just consider you a rotten egg. So it's like, it's important to like not ignore the fact that things are happening. But I think the problem is all of these companies, Amazon, Disney, they push it so far that it makes the whole enterprise be about that, where it's like, actually you've now taken away from the whole show, the whole film, because you've put all your eggs into this basket and you're marketing your movie or your show based off this stuff.
Yeah,
And
they're
I think
using
it
it.
doesn't deserve
Yeah,
it.
they're they're using it as a screen, as a shield to block a lot of other more legitimate opinions on what they do, and
Yes.
just bring up the
Yes.
I don't want to say
Ooh.
politics. I'm not a
Hello,
politician.
Bifford the Hobbit.
Hello.
Welcome.
How are you? How are you doing this fine middle of the week?
We're so pleased that you're with us. I realized something when Bifford just said hi, Phil and Luke, or hi, Luke and Phil. We like never introduce ourselves.
I mean, it says so on the cards there, so I don't know.
I know, but like no one
You
like
know who
knows
I
like
am. It's
anything
over
about
there.
us. Like, what do we do? Why are we doing this? What are our credentials to be able to sit here and discuss story and storytelling?
My
Um,
credentials is I sit at home.
well, go on.
I
What
don't go out
tell
much. That's
give us a
about it.
snapshot of what Phil does. What does Phil
I
do?
I draw because I'm poor and I need money. That's that's what I do.
Lamest way you could introduce yourself. Jeez, how would you
And
do it
next to
in
me,
like a proper setting? How would you
well,
actually?
I'll have you know something. So this company we're kind of building to work on independently made audiobooks, the same style as the audiobook that I did with Lord of the Rings so many years ago.
Yes.
That's been all around the internet. Many people tend to like it a lot. Um, as we're in touch with certain companies
Mm-hmm.
who are interested in partnering with us and or funding and or commissioning something. And what they do, the funniest thing was when we were on one of those Zoom calls, uh, my co-producing partner, after the call was done, he just went, Phil, no offense, but you really need to be a little bit more self-confident. You need to be more
Yes,
self-confident.
you do.
And then I was
Like,
just like, yeah, you're right. Because that's what I do. Because I remember a lot of interviews of my favorite filmmakers and my favorite creators. When they're on interviews and behind the scenes, they're always like, ah, yeah, I did this thing. And, that's the kind of humbleness I want to have.
you can be humble. You can be humble.
Humble.
You can be humble but confident. Um,
I'm still
I like
learning
the
that. I'm still learning that part because a part of me always stops me from saying a lot of things about myself just in case someone might throw a tomato at my face. So
It's all right
that's kind of how it
because if
goes.
someone throws a tomato, at least you've got a tomato.
It's also true if you catch it on time,
You know, there you
great
go.
posada.
Exactly. I like Biffer's comment where he says, "Luke, an OG movie reviewer. I didn't know I was an OG. That's cool. That's cool." And Phil did a movie podcast. Join forces to create the ultimate YouTube channel.
The ultimate. You don't
That is the
need
goal.
any more YouTube channels.
Just come to us. All
I'm
those other
interested
ones.
that Biffer the Hobbit that you listen to Twofold podcast. It's very interesting because
Well, that's a good.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
What are you gonna say
Anyway,
about it?
Luke, nothing.
Oh, there you go.
I
I
told you
guess
there's
I'll
that
speak.
there's that thing. There's that voice in my head that says don't say anymore.
Well, that's you just got to get over that. Take a shot of whiskey and get over that. I was the biggest fan of Twofold Podcast, says Biffer,
Oh, thank you so much, man. Person.
but now Biffer is the biggest fan of the Luke Deckard show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess yeah, a tiny intro to me, because I realized, like I said, we never do this, but I write scripts for Noiser podcasts. They're documentary, docudrama podcasts that are all pretty fun. Check them out. I'm also working on a creative writing PhD. I write crime fiction and things like that. So that's why I'm so nitpicky when it comes to storytelling, and why I'm so nitpicky when it comes to plot and structure and character stuff, and
And
why I
it's
was
good
so
that you are.
exactly. But yeah, so I guess we're here today to talk about House of the Dragon. Game of
Do you hear the note
Thrones prequel.
change? No, how does it? It does
Yeah,
this
I mean,
weird. Ramin Djawadi, who did the music, he does this weird thing where I think the harmonics change. At one point, it goes
maybe.
and it goes, and then it
Oh
has
yeah,
a
there's something like
a
that.
note
Yeah.
change, and
Yes.
I'm always ready for that part.
Yeah. No, well, let's give it a splash of background to us in Game of Thrones. Now, I think we might have talked about this elsewhere briefly, but
Yeah, 10 years ago.
you and I were not fans of Game of Thrones.
No.
Why weren't you a fan?
Well, I remember when I first heard about it, and it's like, oh, Sean Bean's in it, and it's this like really well produced show, and it takes place in the medieval period, and I didn't know much else. It was a fantasy based on some books. This was like 2011, right?
Hmm.
And I said we should like I told Jake, my brother, I said we should watch it, you know. And so I go on and watch the first episode, and I hated it, and I didn't watch anymore. It's as simple as that. It was just felt very boring to me, and I just have everyone to know like just everyone was an asshole and I didn't care about anybody. And
Yes.
that's how I quit because I was just like, what's the point? I don't want to see this. This is not I don't want to see this. It just felt like edgy. They're trying to be edgy. And
Yeah.
so like that kind of attitude really threw me away from whatever else would happen. And so throughout the years as it got popular, especially where I'm living right now in Croatia. Oh man, it's super popular. Also, they had locations in Croatia that they filmed in, right? There's
Yeah.
King's Landing, which is a famous place in the story, which was filmed just down south in Dubrovnik, you know.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah. That's so every time you see that exterior like wide shot, then it's like half of it is just Dubrovnik down there in the south,
Oh,
and you
sweet.
can go and visit it. And like everyone in Croatia, all the young people in Croatia, all this college students and everything, they love that show. It's like everywhere in every bookstore and every like nerd geek store,
Yeah.
cringe. Yeah. There's like Game of Thrones stuff, you know. If it's
Yeah.
not Game of Thrones, then it's like first, it's like number one Game of Thrones, and then number two is Harry Potter split with Lord of the Rings, right?
Okay.
So
Interesting.
those two
Interesting.
things kind of are in the same kind of little corner, but Game of Thrones is like this big one.
Hmm.
That's the attitude I got. So that's I just stopped there, and then I listened back in the day when there was Tumblr, and people were on Tumblr.
Hmm.
People would be posting how amazing the Red Wedding was and how shocked they were. I'm like, so I don't want
Yeah.
to watch assholes being assholes to each other. And then who cares? Red Wedding, whatever. Edgy. They're just trying to be edgy.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
What about you?
I guess probably kind of quite similar because I watched the first episode. I think I watched the first episode with you. I think we watched it together.
I guess so. Yeah.
And you had watched it previously, and then we watched it. This was a second time for you, I think, at least when you and I watched it, because you had censored it jokingly.
Did I?
When
Oh,
anytime
I
there was a
made.
naked
Oh, did
person,
I?
you put the smiley face over their bits,
Oh wow. I forgot
which was
about
really
that.
funny. I don't know why I've always remembered that.
I don't remember
So
it at all. I just like
yeah,
now that you mention it, I made a cut of that. Hmm.
it was funny. So yeah, we watched it, and I remember the kind of I remember being bored, and I remember what you were saying, that everyone is a jerk, and you know, when all of your protagonists are kind of scummy people, you need to make someone sort of likable so you can kind of latch on to them. Like Succession is a great example of that, where everyone is a douchebag, but there's something about some of the characters that intrigues you and makes you want to keep watching. And everyone else, loads of other people, millions of other people, obviously felt some connection to the show and these people. I did not. I was like, this is just maybe a little bit too bleak for me.
But not in
And I'm
but
pretty
not
sure
in.
Sean Bean's gonna die because it's Sean
Which,
Bean. He always
yeah,
dies.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I remember a friend of mine said, "No, no, they cast Sean Bean. They wouldn't kill him this time. They wouldn't kill him."
Yep.
And
Sean was like, wait, Game of Thrones, okay. Do I die? And
do I die
they're
in
like,
it?
yes. And he's like, I'm in.
You got me.
But yeah, no. So I didn't enjoy the first episode. I then eventually watched the whole first season back in 2017.
I think I tried
Right.
that too, but I just did
Yeah.
not. I still didn't like it. Didn't hook me in.
Nope. Nope. I was I was blasé about it. I watched it, got through the whole season, and thought I could watch season two, or I could just go watch Rick and Morty. Uh, yeah, and so therefore I stopped. So I got through the whole first season, thought it was meh. Yeah, it was just meh. I don't know what it is. It just I couldn't get into it. I don't know. I don't know if part of it was the hype. The hype. Anytime things are really overhyped, then
Yeah,
that
I
also
don't.
hinders me a little bit.
I step away from anything that becomes popular. Like
Yeah,
I just kind of distance myself from it.
yeah,
It's just a
and
natural
yes,
reflex.
yeah. So I said goodbye to Game of Thrones. Thought, okay, this is fine. It's not for me. It's for other people, and I'm fine with that. But House of the Dragon
No,
came
no, no.
out.
Before that, season 8
What?
came out and it was
What?
glorious.
Ooh, yeah, true. I felt bad
I
for
didn't
Game of
even
Thrones
follow it,
fans.
but I've heard from other people because like a lot of my friends are big
Yes.
fans of it, and I was just seeing the rumblings on social media of everyone starting to like complain about, and
Yeah.
this is a good type of complaining, like that it wasn't
Yeah.
good. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm in. I'm watching some YouTube. I'm gonna watch YouTube videos about this, even though I've never seen the last season. I'm gonna watch and see what the problem is. And it was
Yeah.
fun. I just had a good time watching the world burn, I guess.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was quite bitter, not sweet at all.
No,
It's just
yeah,
bitter.
yeah. I was gonna say, yeah. I feel
You
sorry
know.
for everybody who's disappointed, and I wish it was better. But
Yeah.
it's
I mean, I remember feeling that way even with the last Harry Potter movie. I was like, because I decided to read the book before the second half of the final film came out,
that's the only
and
book that I read before the movie, before a
uh,
movie. Like,
okay,
before a Harry Potter movie. That's the only one that I
yeah.
read before,
Oh,
and
interesting.
I was disappointed.
Yeah, no, I was too. I remember watching it and thinking, wow, you've cut out all of the stuff that I loved in the book and would have loved to have seen, and you didn't put it in. That's bizarre to me. And I think everything from with the last season of Game of Thrones, with the Starbucks cup accidentally
It's amazing.
being left in the scene, being left, and then just the kind of. I think I did watch the finale just to watch it and see if I got anything from it. And yeah, I think that was even eh, it was pretty lame, even for someone who didn't watch it. It was pretty lame. Um, so when it ended, I was like, of course it ended, and there were instant rumblings of a new show, you know. And then of course there were instant rumblings of a Lord of the Rings show.
That's true.
I think it was all around the same time that these discussions were being had, and what was going to come first, and how was it going to work, really kicked off.
Yeah.
And here we are. They are both out. The Lord of the Rings show and the new Game of Thrones show. I really wanted to watch it, and I really can't explain why, other than I really like Matt Smith,
You
who
really like Matt
was
Smith?
he was the Doctor in Doctor
Mm-hmm.
Who from season what season was it? I think it was
11.
five, 6, and 7.
11.
He was the 11th Doctor. Yeah. And I've always liked him. I've always found him to be a very charismatic actor, and I've always felt that after Doctor Who, he's not really been given a chance to shine. I felt that Karen Gillan, who was his companion for a huge chunk of his time, she went on to Guardians of the Galaxy, Jumanji,
Yeah,
like she's all over
been
the
around.
place,
Yeah.
and that's great because I like her too. But I just felt really bad for him because I thought, he was in Terminator Genisys. He was in Morbius most recently.
Oh, he was,
Um,
wasn't he? I mean, he did some
yeah,
art. He did some like art
he
movies,
did.
independent films. I remember he
He
was in the
did.
movie that just went by, and I've never seen anything since from what's his name? He was in The Notebook. Come on, he was in
Ryan
Drive.
Gosling.
Ryan
Ryan Gosling.
Gosling's
Yeah.
film that he directed, and I remember
I just
watching the
remember.
trailer.
Do you remember
The
that scene
trailer.
where he's like that? Yeah, in the trailer scene where
Look
he's like,
at
"Look
my
at my
muscles.
muscles."
Look at my muscles. Yeah, that's all. That's all I know. That's the movie. I've never seen that movie.
Same, same. I don't know what the heck. And then it was funny because someone took that clip and put it on YouTube and like looped it for like 10 hours or something like that
Yeah, they
of
do
him
that.
just saying, "Look at my muscles. Look at my muscles." That was really funny. So yeah, so I feel like he's a great actor, and he hasn't been given a role that is outside of the UK that is really going to blow him up. So I wanted to watch it for him because I
Okay.
like him. I like him. There's no one else in the show that I like actively know. I'm recognizing faces,
Well, I
but in
know
terms of like,
Paddy
go on.
Considine. I
Yeah, I
know.
recognize him.
I was just
Wasn't he in
like,
like Hot Fuzz or
he was
something?
one of the Andes in Hot Fuzz, and
Yeah, one of the Andes.
he was also director as well, and he made this movie called Tyrannosaur, which I haven't seen, but I heard it was really good,
Mm,
and it has nothing to do with a dinosaur.
okay, okay. Biffer suggests that we see the Last
Matt
Night in
Smith in
Soho.
Last Night in Soho. I've not seen that yet, but
I
like
haven't. Is that
my
Edgar
cousin
Wright?
Tim, yeah, it's Edgar Wright.
I
Yeah,
should see
yeah.
that. I should see
Last
that
Night in
actually.
Soho. That's what we made it. We made it there in Soho, and it was really good. And that's how he talks.
He
Yeah,
does.
he's great. I wish I could talk to Edgar Wright. He's so cool. I actually did on Flickr because he had a Flickr account.
Flickr, man, yes,
Yeah,
Flickr.
Edgar Wright had a Flickr account, and I found it. Wasn't even that well known, but he kept. It was like his Instagram before Instagram was popular.
Yeah, I
He
had a
just would
Flickr.
upload,
Yeah.
yeah, he would upload photos of him working on Ant-Man, in 2013,
Oh
2012.
wow, even
And it
as recent as that,
yeah, he would be posting pictures.
10 years ago.
Yeah, he would be posting pictures of like him like just kind of teasing Ant-Man, and it was great because he would find words that have A and T together. That's
Awesome.
that's awesome stuff. See, Edgar Wright is a wonderful person.
Yeah,
Just
I like him a lot. I'm gutted that he never got to do Ant-Man. I think his version would have been great.
way better than what we got. But then again, I mean, in my opinion, like Ant-Man isn't that bad of a film.
It's very generic. Talk about why it's generic while I shut my windows because there's some sort of squealing beastie outside.
Okay, I'm I'm talking about why it's not generic because I do believe that Peyton Reed, who took over, he has just knowing his background, he has had a bit of a passion to direct the Fantastic Four movies. He hasn't done that, and he's made other films like Bring It On. Have you seen Bring It On? It's Kirsten Dunst.
No, I don't think I have actually.
Anyway, Peyton Reed was around, and I think he directed that, unless I'm mistaking him for the director for Spider-Man. whatever the Far
Mark
From
Webb.
Homecoming. Yeah, Mark. No,
Oh,
no,
that
Mark
guy. I
Webb
don't.
is the other guy. And yeah, no, I think there's something that's trying to burst the bubble of the Marvel formula a little bit because like they filmed it in eight when I was watching some behind the scenes and they said we filmed it in 185:1 aspect ratio instead of 235 because
Mhm.
when you see things that are big it's usually tall and I'm like they get it. That's
Yeah.
why stupid Jurassic World was not filmed in that format because they're idiots.
'Cause-
Well, that's
Yes.
exactly what Spielberg said as well. He said we're filming Jurassic Park because it's tall. It has the tall frame,
Yes.
which is why Godzilla had to be 235, huh?
Oh boy, we've got Phil wired up now. Oh
I'm
boy.
sorry, it's the aspect ratio thing. I remember when they were talking about in Alien Resurrection, and they originally had like a vertical. They had a vertical spaceship, and it's like, why would we have a vertical spaceship if the screen is so wide? There'd be like so
Right.
much you can't see the whole thing. Then they made a horizontal one. This is what you do with
It
with
was like
with
this, and they're like,
framing
wait a
of
minute, it
films.
should just be like this.
Exactly. This is what you do. Like choosing the format, the aspect ratio is also an art form. Every part of the filmmaking process is an artistic decision.
This is true. I completely agree.
And
But anyway, House of Dragon.
real quick,
Okay.
Godzilla, real
Okay.
quick. Okay, so, what's his name? Come on, help me out here. Edward,
I don't know. Gareth
Gar-
Edwards.
Gareth Edwards, was it? Yes, because there's two
Yes.
Edwards. There's a Gareth Edwards and there's another Edwards
Are you
that's
talking about the
directing
Godzilla
movies.
guy? The guy who did
Yes,
Godzilla?
Gareth Edwards.
Gareth Edwards.
Yes. I criticized his use of 235 many
Hmm.
times, but then you know what? I'm gonna have to admit it because my cousin Tim loves the 2014 Godzilla.
Eh,
I like it. I like it.
like the
I
first
find many.
hour.
What?
I like the
I
first hour.
Sure. Uh, and I said I don't like it because you don't see Godzilla in full. Like if you're gonna watch on a big screen, you want to see this towering creature. Because I remember my experience in IMAX. Seeing this 1335 aspect ratio filling your screen. It was intimidating. It was scary seeing how big that thing was. And to see a picture come up into that giant screen, that's how dreams are made. I mean, like it's stuff like that. And to see like if Godzilla was filmed that way, it would have made a big impression in my opinion. So anyway, what I wanted to say is that Gareth did this thing with the camera where it would just kind of like go up and down. You wouldn't see all of Godzilla, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I didn't like that because you couldn't see him in full. But then Tim kind of said, well, I mean, I think what he was trying to do is he was trying to make it feel like if you were that small and you couldn't really get how big he was on the screen. So like it's sort of painting the impression of like you being helpless and small and being not able to see the full picture because of how big Godzilla is. And I said fair enough. Fair enough. You know what? I respect that. I actually quite like that idea even if it cancels the whole big screen experience situation. Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. I'll calm down. Let's go back to House of the Dragon. Sorry.
We have deviated incredibly from
Sorry.
what we were talking about. So the other thing with Game of Thrones actually is that I'm not a massive fan of fantasy. Mostly,
Okay.
right? So I don't read a lot of fantasy. I have some fantasy books, Neverending Story right there.
Never
Um,
story.
Christy Joe, hello. Yes, that Godzilla movie
Hey.
was terrible. I agree.
Oh,
Um,
Christy.
Frank, you haven't missed
Frank!
anything other than a Godzilla rant, so you're just in time
By
for us to
who?
talk about
Who
Game
do you
of
think
Thrones.
did the Godzilla rant?
Yeah, which one of us? Which one? Um, it was a good rant though. Um,
Thank you.
so yeah, me and fantasy, I don't do a lot of fantasy. There are certain things that I enjoy, things like Neverending Story, Lord of the Rings, a little bit of Chronicles of Narnia, pockets of fantasy stuff.
We need to
I
have a
really-
Chronicles of Narnia podcast episode sometime.
We should do that. But so that was another reason why like I wasn't really uber drawn to Game of Thrones, and then when I was watching, I was like, this is just sort of so grim, and I'm not in. So I'm like, no. But again, like I said, I was intrigued to watch this show because of Matt Smith. I really like him, and I was like, okay, let's give this show ago. Um, it's 3 episodes have come out now, and it's interesting watching them in correlation with Rings of Power.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest,
Yeah,
kind of like point of interest. But like
yes, it's
that's my
it's
impetus.
almost go on.
That's my
Oh,
impetus of watching it.
yeah, it's almost like watching the Orville and the new Star Trek shows.
Oh yeah,
Like
there you go.
old Star Trek fans really like the Orville, while the current Star Trek shows are not appealing to most Star Trek fans, in my opinion. At least they don't appeal to me, except for Lower Decks, which we will discuss in a few weeks' time.
You're saying that's
Um,
actually good.
Lower Decks is good, but I don't consider it canon.
Wow. Because it looked. Mm,
It's Rick and Morty Star Trek, but it's actually done
yeah.
well. It's done well. It's fun. I have fun with it. But like I said, I don't consider it canon anyway. So it's interesting that you have these like all these competing shows that really should be drawing from the same
Cloth.
audience. Like your House of Dragon fans should then be jumping over to Rings of Power and vice versa, because it's just a bunch of epic fantasy stuff is out there for consumption, and it is in terms of film quality and look, it all looks relatively good. I mean, we mentioned that
Yeah.
about Lord of the Rings, that Rings of Power, that you
Technically,
know
it looks fine.
technically, yeah, I
But like, I think everyone that says that, it's just like, I hate putting this old adage on there, but like, grass is green.
yes. Yes, Jack Quaid is in Lower Decks, and he is very funny. I like Jack Quaid. He's cool.
No idea who
Um,
that is, unfortunately. And now Frank's gonna be like, "Oh my god," shakes
he
my head.
plays Huey in The Boys.
I haven't seen the boys yet.
Okay, you're gonna have to watch The Boys, because when that comes back out with a new season, we are discussing The Boys,
I
because The
have 3
Boys,
seasons to watch.
they're short seasons, man. You got plenty of time.
Okay.
The third season just ended. You got time. I love The Boys. I think The Boys is great. So yeah, we're really well written, really well acted, sharp stuff. Yeah, if it was on now, we would be.
Jack Quaid is Dennis Quaid's son.
Yes, he is. Oh, yes, he was on an episode of Best of the Worst. That is correct. Correct, Frank.
I
Correct.
haven't
Gold
seen I haven't
star.
seen a best of the worst since last year.
Frank, I don't know why Phil won't watch anything from Red Letter Media. He's so far behind. I
I'm
watch
really
it
far
religiously.
behind.
I watch him religiously. The second that video comes out, I am there most of the time.
Jack Quaid was in
Um,
Scream, the '96 Scream.
Maybe he was a child. Anyway, moving on from Jack Quaid. So, House of the Dragon. So both House of the Dragon. Let's you watch the show, Philip.
I
Re-
have indeed watched all 3 episodes of
Good.
House of the Dragon.
Now, what I find interesting, because obviously I'm now retrospectively going back to episodes 1 and 2, having just seen the Rings of Power.
Oh, I have the
It's
opposite.
it's interesting that both of these shows open with a prologue, right? To kind of set the scene.
Yeah. They do.
To set up your characters, to set up the dynamics, to set up the intrigue and things like that. Now, the House of
Were you ever
House of the
gonna
Dragon go on.
Were you ever you were gonna ask me, like, just Philip, what did you think of House of Dragon? House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon.
I was and am going to ask you that.
Okay.
But okay, we'll come back to the prologue then in a minute. So what are your
Here be
initial
dragons.
reaction to House of the Dragon?
You mean like the first
I mean, if I'm
episode,
gonna
or like
ask you, you better be ready for the question.
you mean the first episode, or you mean like
Yeah,
overall?
yeah. Let's go with the first episode, because then we'll dive into the rest of it from there.
Well, the first 10 minutes don't grip me, but as it kept going, I kept wanting to watch it. And
There you
I
go.
continued to watch it, and I immediately went, I'm watching the second episode. I think that should tell you a lot.
That does tell me a lot. It's more than what Game of Thrones accomplished.
Huh?
It's more than what Game of Thrones accomplished. The original Game of Thrones.
Yeah, the original one, I like.
This is House of
In
Dragon, Game of
case,
Thrones.
yes,
Yes.
in case you didn't listen to us talk about it just a couple of minutes ago, both I and Luke back in 2011 just dropped it first episode. I didn't like it. Everyone felt like a douchebag, and it just felt like it was trying to be edgy. And that's it.
Yep.
I was just like, yeah, whatever. Go be edgy
And
somewhere else.
I think what I liked about the beginning of House of the Dragon, is, like I said, it nicely sets up the issues with, the king. What's his name? Viserys. King Viserys.
I don't know.
Viserys becomes king.
King Patty.
Yes, King Viserys. Viserys becomes king. He's chosen over his cousin, who is a lady, and it's quite obvious what the commentary is there. It's like, patriarchy is going to rule. We're not going to let her become queen because she'd be the first queen, and we always
We
have
can't have
kings and all
that.
that kind of, right? And so it sets up nicely this split in the family. Like, okay, there's family tension because of how these chips have fallen.
It's a strong start. It's a very
It's a very
strong
strong.
start.
It is, because the thing is, Viserys, if I'm saying his name right, I think I am. He is not fit for purpose, and
That's why I was
she,
confused. Yes, go on.
yes, no,
I
go
was
on.
just
You're fine.
confused as to why Paddy Considine was cast, but because I like he has such a his face doesn't scream. It feels like he's wearing a wig. It doesn't feel like he's he fits in. But then the more
Yeah,
I watch with him in it, and then the more he's nailing it, and the more it's like
yeah,
that's perfect. He knows exactly why he's here. Paddy,
yep,
the actor.
yes. That actor is perfect for that role, because he embodies that sort of individual who, in a authoritative position, you don't really see him as authoritative. You see him as sort of bullied and pushed around by his
And
his
you
right
can feel
and
that,
left
and you can
hands.
feel that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I loved how the prologue set this up so perfectly within a short period of time. I mean, the episode's an
Yeah,
hour
it
long. The
didn't take
prologue is like,
17 minutes. No.
no. And I think that's what's so shocking. Like, if you compare the prologue of House of the Dragon to Rings of Power, like,
Rings of
Rings of
Power.
Power takes 17 minutes, takes you all over the map, and you don't really know what the heck you're meant to be like focusing on, other than Sauron's back or Sauron's not dead. Well, yeah, we already know that because we've all read the books. Whereas I know people could have read the books for this. This is based on a book. That's fine. I haven't read the book. I've read any of the Game of Thrones books. But with this, what it has done is nicely put the characters on the board, and it's preparing for the game to begin, and what is happening. You know what the focus is, and the focus is inept king has been landed on the throne. There's going to be a lot of tension based around that. That's what the prologue sets up, and I loved it.
I did too.
Um,
I did too. What kind of a world do we live in where there's Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones in the same year, and I found Lord of the Rings to be boring and Game of Thrones to be fascinating?
do you know why? You
What
know
is
why it
this?
is. House of Dragon
I
begins
know.
in a way that is very different to Game of Thrones and Rings of Power, and that is, there are likable but damaged characters in this show,
There's a lot of them.
and yeah,
Everyone's damaged, and that's
yeah,
great to see.
and there's manipulators, and there's other people who are genuine, and you are on other people's you're on you find people's sides to connect with.
Yeah, and
His
also what I
daughter
found,
Rhaenyra,
yeah,
she's really cool. I like Rhaenyra.
she's fantastic. I knew exactly, like there's certain scenes, like I think in the second
Hmm.
episode where she's doing a first time praying to the gods.
Yes.
And then she didn't say anything, but I knew what was gonna come out of her mouth, and it was just it's something that with this kind of way that they were able to kind of steer your not just expectations but understanding of these different individuals
Mm.
and the more it plays out, the more the you know just it just makes you a lot more invested in it, and I think that was good.
It does. No,
It's good.
that's again the other thing that's a stark contrast between this and Rings of Power is you are understanding every character's role and motivation, and every episode is it progresses and pushes the interpersonal dramas forward. Nothing kind of stays the same from scene to scene. Everything is moving forward in some way.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Just
Rings of Power had 2
just want to say
hours.
what Christy says. That's a lot of damage. Now that's a lot of damage.
There we go. Um, yeah, no. So like that's the thing. It's like there's so much stuff going on and pushing characters forward, and pushing the plot forward. That I'm like I'm much more into this. This is exactly what I'm into. Whereas Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power.
Lord of the Rings, the
Um,
Rings of Power.
you know, who is there to feel connected to? No one. You know, Galadriel is just super awesome and slaying
She's one
trolls.
note. She's very
She's
one
one
note.
note. Her face is her acting is you have Elron Tarantino who's just smug. It's just there's no they're caricatures of Lord of the Rings characters done by community theater actors. It's not good, it's not engaging, and it's boring. Whereas with House of Dragon, like there's so much drama, and I saw
There's so
someone
many
on
consequences.
yes.
There's so many sparks, not sparks, spurs, beginnings of things that you kind of feel, especially if you have an idea about Game of Thrones, that will become a problem later, which
Oh yeah.
is used to their advantage because then you can start planting all these little things that might go wrong. Like I remember watching that really difficult open like first episode scene, and I think you know what I'm
Yeah, we'll talk
talking
about
about,
that. We'll talk about that.
and just knowing where this will be going, and just it was yeah, yep, yep.
Yep. Kirsty Joe, perfect comment. Like I like likable characters, and they all play a part in the story. Kind of rare these days. Absolutely. If you just watch the first episodes of Game of Thrones or House of Dragon and Rings of Power, it's mind blowing because there are no likable characters in Rings of Power. There's no one who is likable at all. It's just sort of generic, and you don't care about what their role is. Their role in the story doesn't seem or feel connected to any other scene that is happening,
No,
right?
not at all.
But
None of them have any purpose. At least there's no
no,
driving force behind why you should care for them
exactly.
in
But Rings
particular.
of House of the Dragon, I
We're
mean,
just
everyone. I mean, this is the thing. We're going to compare it, and this is where I'm like, what's better? Like, why, no one should be watching Rings of Power, and everyone should be watching House of the Dragon, at least based off the first 3 episodes, which have been terrific. But like, if you think about it, like, Rhaenyra, what's her name? Rhaenyra's character, the character of Rhaenyra, rather, like, we understand what her role is, right? She is, obviously spoilers for the whole 3 episodes, by the way. She is potentially going to be the queen. She is now set up as circumstances have played out to, be christened the heir to the throne now, a break from
yeah.
tradition, right? But then you have the Viserys's right hand dude Otto, played by the Lizard in
The
Spider-Man.
lizard.
The
By
Lizard,
wait, I want to remember his name. Reese
Reese
Van Evans.
Rice, Rain, that guy. Um, you have
Reese
him
Van.
who he is a snake. He has his
But is he
aims.
too much of a? I can see that he is, but like I think this maybe I just interpreted it wrong, but I just felt like he's trying to do the best thing, but he's still doing the thing in his favor.
He is doing the thing that makes some sense, but it is mostly for his favor, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
So, and
think
that
I think
that's kind of what I liked about it because like I couldn't, like sometimes he seems pretty good. He seems like a cool dude. Like he's always been helpful to Patty, King
he's quite
Patty.
manipulative.
But
He's
he is
pretty damn
manipulating. But he
manipulative.
is manipulating the situation. But also, I feel like this is also quite a nice because from all the reading, believe it or not, reading that I've done with about the Middle Ages and learning a little more about it is that that's integral to the governing body of his lordship the king, and this sorts of things still happen, and it kind of gives you a good example of a taste of how what it might have been.
Well, it absolutely is. But the thing that's interesting is when it came. So we okay. Let's. So basically, what happens in this
Sorry.
first episode is the king's wife is pregnant, and he is desperate for a son because he hasn't had a son yet, and he needs a son to.
She's also had a ton of miscarriages as well.
A
It's
ton
very
of
sad.
miscarriages. Yeah. So this is a very intense moment, right? And his wife goes into labor. I cannot remember the
That was
queen's
during the
name.
dude.
Yeah,
I don't know anyone's name. I'm so
that's right.
sorry. I know no
Well,
one's
open up
name.
open up IMDb so you can have it there to look at.
I just know Patty Considine.
Yes. So it's quite a brutal thing where his wife goes into labor and he's got all these people talking in his ear because the labor isn't going very well. And it gets to a crucial point where he has to decide they can either save her or they can save the baby. And
It is time to
he,
make an impossible choice.
yes, and he is so bent on the idea of getting a male heir that he decides to sacrifice his wife for the baby in the hopes it will be a boy, in the hopes that he can continue his line. And that scene was
It
so
was
horrific. That is high drama right there. High stakes
that is
right
pure
there.
Kino.
And what's funny to me is someone on Twitter was saying that House of the Dragon was kind of they're like slow and meandering, and the stakes weren't very high. And I'm like, if you are choosing between the life of your unborn child and the wife and the life of your wife, that's pretty high stakes. You know
I
what I
don't know
mean?
what they're talking about because that's Lord of the Rings of Power.
Right? Like that is
Huh.
high stakes. And I think what's annoying
Mysterious.
is so many shows have lost the ability to make these sorts of dramatic moments the real high stakes, you know? And that's so that individual's comments I thought were wrong because I'm like this is super high stakes, and then in classic Game of Thrones fashion, he sacrifices the wife, he gets the male heir that he wants, but the child doesn't live more than like a day, and you're like, holy shit, like was it worth it, bro? Was it worth it? Um, and again, you're just like that's the kind of intense drama that you're not getting with Rings of Power. You're not getting this oh my god, I'm torn between these two lives, what do I
Right.
do? You're just sort of watching and waiting for everyone to just finally get caught up to speed and realize that Sauron is around so that they can go do some Sauron bull malarkey, you
Yeah.
know some bull malarkey. It's a bull
Yeah, yeah,
malarkey.
yeah, yeah. No, I know what you
um
mean. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But then again, also there are differences because like you can't just say that, oh, this is just like Lord of the Rings. If only Lord of the Rings had a Game of Thrones thing. No, 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 no. See, Game of Thrones has its own. What it's focused on is it's focused on like, the politics and the character. It's like it's very character focused. It's very individual. Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings has a lot of. I mean, Lord of the Rings, the actual books that Tolkien wrote, that's more character focused. But when you're talking about something like what they wanted to adapt with Rings of Power, they had an opportunity to do something,
Yeah.
and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. Sorry, I don't know where I was going. I
No.
was going on a tangent and I lost the point.
No, it's I think I know what you're getting at maybe, and I get that like we're not comparing them in that we're saying that this should be more like this or vice versa, but what we're getting at I think is that there are high stakes dramatic moments happening in House of the Dragon that are pushing the characters forward into new territories, whereas and this is just one episode, mind you, one hour
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
episode
yeah, yeah.
is irrevocably changing people's lives, changing these characters' lives. Whereas
Yeah, there
two
you go. That's a good
hours,
one.
2 fucking hours of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, nothing really changes. The
It's
only
true.
person who really changes, like really, is the elf guy with his girlfriend. That's it. Like,
Not
but
even that.
nothing really changes. He just sort of starts to investigate the tunnels and then
Who
gets
cares
kidnapped.
about the tunnels? They're
Yeah.
investigating tunnels over there. Meanwhile, we have someone's progeny just completely dying in childbirth.
So Kirsty Joe says, "Are there a lot of sex scenes in House of the Dragon, like Game of Thrones was known
Surprisingly,
for?" Hang
no.
on, hang on, hang on.
Sorry. I
You're
had
jumping
some
ahead.
beer. I had some
Say
beer.
again. That's all right. Have more beer. Because
You
you're
know I
not about
will.
that.
I will.
So
I will. I'll go get some beer.
have some beer. Get some more beer. Get some more beer.
I'll get some beer.
Um, you want me to talk? Okay, I'll talk about this while you get some beer. So yes, there are. Let me think. There's a few sex scenes in the series, but it is not as kind of shamelessly gratuitous as Game of Thrones. And in fact, there's one particular scene with Matt Smith where he's in a brothel with his particular he has a particular lady there who is his lady, and he struggles to complete the mission, the mission, Jim. He struggles to complete, but it is again, it's all tied to the plot. It's all tied to the interpersonal dramas. Like he is caught up in his mind. He is frustrated with what is happening around him because for him the death of the his brother's son is suggesting that he as really the next male heir in the family should be king, but that's when his brother decides, I'm going to go ahead and break tradition and I'm going to appoint my daughter as the heir and she will be queen and we're going to break with tradition. So Matt Smith's character, Damien, is really frustrated. So like it's the way that they are using the sex scenes are actually useful to the plot and demonstrating character and character frustration and things like that. So it's not as kind of shamelessly
It's not as
nasty.
exploitative as it was in Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
as far as I remember.
No. Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of. I mean, there's scenes where there are many a boobs and many a butts, but it doesn't feel as. Yeah. Game of Thrones felt icky.
It
to
doesn't
me.
feel as gratuitous.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel as voyeuristic.
Yes. Yeah. Um. Yeah, and I think again, like let's talk about like character introductions, right? And we're gonna skip all over the place because we've seen all 3 episodes and stuff. So we're not gonna like coherently go from the beginning to the end of all 3 episodes. Um, but I think the character introductions have been really great. I think Matt Smith's introduction as Damien was, I
Damon.
think it's Damien or Damon.
It's Damon.
Damon
Damon.
was okay. Damon was awesome. Like, it's funny thinking about lanky, raggedy man Doctor Who being this like brutal, tough warrior guy. But
Short
the
fuse.
introduction with a short fuse, yeah, the introduction to him, like it sets up what he is all about, right? He is ruthless, he is chaotic, he is a rogue, he is out to prove himself.
He's mental.
He's mental, but not mental.
In the
It's
British
like,
way.
yes, mental in the British way. Um, yeah, and like, I mean, one of his opening scenes, like, what did you think of that?
I don't
With his
remember
police
it.
force, with the
Oh, with his
police
police
force.
force. Okay, now I remember that one. Yeah. That one. See, that one was great because it just really establishes exactly what you need to know about him. King says, "Okay, you take care of like security because people have been kind of unruly around the streets." And he's like, "Okay, I
Cleaning up
will."
the city.
Yeah, let's clean up the city, and he really cleans up the city so much that he starts scratching through. It's like when you have Teflon and you just scratch through the Teflon way too much. You're scrubbing way too hard. And that's what he does.
Oof. I mean, the bit we can, like, the violence in this show is
To be expected.
gratuitous, but it's expected in terms of Game of Thrones violence. And I mean, there's
I
one
like the.
bit in this. Go on.
Hmm. Are you talking about the first episode?
Yes. Yeah, I was going to talk about the bit where I like the bit where, because it's all quite shocking. It's shocking violence, and I'm fine with it. Like, I'm fine with that kind of stuff. But when they're seizing up all the criminals in the city, and like one of them has been abusive to women, and they just full on chop it all off
Oh
and
yeah,
just
that's right.
throw it on the ground. You're like, oh my god, like, this is, he is
They ain't kidding
cleaning up the
around.
city. He's not kidding around. He is making an impression, and everyone will know, don't be nasty, because we will chop your dick and balls off.
The old cook and bulls.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that introduction
And there you
really
go. That's all
told
you
us.
need to know. You know him, and you've
Yeah.
got a good actor for it as well, Matt Smith, because like he has an intense stare, and he always has an interesting look, and he knows how to work his assets. If you don't mind me saying that word, but he does. He knows his strengths,
Yes. Yes.
and it worked.
What,
It
you
worked
had a
very
scene
well.
in mind? You were gonna mention a
Oh, I
scene, I
was just
think.
saying. I just wanted to say the contrast. What I loved about the first episode was the contrast of. What struck me was that during the moment where the queen is having a very difficult birthing situation, and
Yes.
it cuts back and forth between the jousting match that's happening at the same time. She's in
Yes.
labor. She's move away. The king was supposed to be there during this celebration because she's that's the whole that's why this celebration's happening. But he has to go back to be with his wife while this horrifying situation is taking place. And it's so funny because there isn't even that much blood. Okay, no, I'm wrong. Sorry. There is, but like compared to the carnage that's happening when they cut away to the jousting
Yeah.
part, it was very. I think this is why it was split like this. Is because that violence of this guy getting his head smashed in with one of those maces,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
just seeing like the top of
Oh.
the skull just slide out and
Oh
the
god.
jaw remaining intact
Oh.
was less intense to me
Mm.
than seeing this medieval C-section happening.
Well, I think I know why, though, and this is why that scene was so powerful.
Yeah.
His wife is, she's being sacrificed. These
Yes.
these
Yeah.
these these soldiers in the jousting thing, they are in it because that's what they want to do. She is just being flat out murdered. You know what I mean? She
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
no say in the matter. And it's just like, I think that to me is why it was like, oh my gosh, this is horrific, because it demonstrates how weak and pathetic King Viserys is. He is so, you know, anxious and worried that he's not going to get his stupid little heir, that he's willing to sacrifice her life just for the hopes of that. And he
Well,
does it in the most just nasty way. And like when all the people come in and start holding her down, and she starts panicking because she starts to worry about what's going to happen, and you're just like, not only are you a weak king, but you're a jackass. Like, you're a piece of shite, you know, and
you're a piece of shit, you know that.
and it's shocking, but it's not violence for shock's sake. You're learning so much about that character and what he's willing to do in desperation, and sort of,
Yeah, and it sets the tone, and it
yeah.
it just creates this picture that makes the scene work.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's a very, very, very desperate man, I think, and yeah, we'll see where this takes him.
But
What
at
do
the
you
same
think?
time, it's he wasn't. But like at the same time, you maybe I'm in the wrong saying this, but you do kind of see his point of view in the next couple of episodes, even the first episode. You just I kind of felt like I was in his position, going like, I mean, this is horrible, but like he's not his intentions weren't necessarily evil at the same time, but he made a horrible choice that isn't
Yeah,
you don't forgive someone for that. But at the same time, what I always liked about these three episodes anyway is that all these characters, like I said before, they're not pure this or that,
mm-mm. No, no.
and and striking a balance in a narrative form like this is tricky, and they pulled it off. They pulled it off so
It
far.
did.
They pulled it off.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, he's not evil. He's he's misguided, and he's weak. Really, at the end of the day, he's just a weak guy, and you begin to see his guilt festering in the coming episodes, in episodes 2, and especially in episode 3. You can
That
see
was
the guilt.
rough. That was
Yeah,
rough.
he is declining.
Oh, what
Yeah,
am I to do?
yeah.
I had
Um,
dreams.
what do
We
you
came
think?
here to hunt, not this politicking.
Yes, that was good. Um, what do you think about the way he sort of can't really sit on the throne without hurting himself, and sort of getting so much, he's always cutting himself, and there's always dead flesh on him.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I was wondering about it. I was thinking to myself, like, is that just because like he had one in the back and then he had one in his pinky, but I thought that was just some kind of thing that we'll find out will happen to him later. He'll get leprosy or something. I don't know.
Mhm. There's a
Was it
theory out
self-inflicted? Because I
there.
guess I wasn't paying attention to. I think I was.
Yeah,
I was
one
watching
one at
it.
a time. It's not. I mean, it's. I mean, self-inflicted. It's an accidental infliction, I guess. But there's a theory out there that the reason he is getting kind of poisoned by every time he's sitting on the throne and getting nicked by it is
It's made
that
out of lead.
the throne itself is rejecting him. It's symbolism, I suppose. Symbolism that he is
Sure.
not fit to be king. And I'm like, that's quite interesting. Like, I quite like that.
Have you read Henry the Fifth?
No, I think I've seen the play, but I've not read
Yeah, yeah.
the play.
There's something Shakespearean about this whole courtroom drama.
I think so.
The
I
King's
think so.
courtroom drama.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's great. I liked
It,
every character, in
yeah.
this so far. I liked every conversation. I can't believe I'm saying this, In the year of our Lord, 2022.
Well,
And here I am.
you raised a good point, because you're saying you like all the conversations and stuff like that. Where Rings of Power, we didn't like. There's no
Rings of
conversation.
power.
There's no good conversation in Rings of Power. There's no good dialogue. There is really
It amounts to
bad.
nothing. They amount to
Yeah.
nothing. The dialogue amounts to nothing.
There's empty platitudes and heady ideas and just vagueness, like,
Make it sound Lord of the
why
Ringsy.
does a rock sink and a ship float? Physics. That's why.
It's physics, mate, in it. Physics,
you know, it's just emptiness. Whereas the conversations here, you're like, okay, these are characters who are, those scenes where the Viserys is with all of his men in that kind of courtroom, not courtroom, but this sort of discussion room, the council, right? Like when Otto, his right hand guy, Lizard Man, is is trying to manipulate the king, but then Damon is kind of firing back, and they're kind of shooting back at each other verbally, right? You're getting so much from these characters. You're really getting a sense of you're really getting a sense of like what the dynamic is. And
you are.
You don't get that in Rings of Power. Like, sure, Galadriel turns up to Elrond's house and she's like, "Take me to the king." And she's like, "Take me to the king." And he's like, "Okay. Okay."
You are not the lady that I knew. You are not the friend that I knew before.
Right? "Oh, I expected you to turn up in blood and guts. It was troll guts and blood." Oh, shut up. Like, that's not a conversation. That's not a conversation. Like,
you shut up, all right? You shut your mouth.
There's nothing about the character dynamics of Rings of Power that even comes close to matching what is happening in House of the Dragon.
Because they don't have any purpose. All the dialogue in House of the Dragon has purpose. It moves everything along. Lord of the Rings is nothing.
No, it doesn't. I mean, let's think about this.
I'm sorry, I'm drinking.
It's all right. Let's think about this. The final scene in episode 2 of House of the Dragon. So episode 2, yes. The focus of that is his council, the king's council, are saying, you have got to take a wife because tradition, yada yada yada, right? And he's like, "But I don't want to take a wife." And then so we were going to talk. I was going to mention this earlier, but you were saying that it makes sense for Otto to push his daughter on, and manipulate his way. But there is another option. There was another option. That was his cousin's daughter, which was creepy in its own right because she was.
It's creepy, 12. But you know what? It's the Middle Ages. You know that
yes.
These things happen.
Yes.
Unfortunate as they may have been.
Yes, and so there was a lot of push for everyone to say, actually, you should do this. This makes the most strategic sense. Da 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 da. All these reasons, right? And he chooses.
She's 10.
Right. He chooses. Oh, what's her name? Alicent, I think her name is. Alicent. He chooses Alicent instead, mainly because Otto, her dad, has been manipulating and kind of forcing her to present herself to the king and manipulate his emotions by giving him that little fixing that broken stone toy, being there and reading to him, and after his wife passed, all that sort of stuff, like she,
bastard, I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think of that.
There you go. So
can't believe it.
There you go. Okay, you're not Scottish, so stop it.
I'm trying my best. I know you've been to Edinburgh.
Hello, Wahab. All that. It's nice to see you in the crowd.
It's nice to see you in the crowd.
All right, you're not Scottish. Stop the Scottish accent.
Okay.
But yes, like another really like crazy cool moment in terms of like character drama, and this comes at the end of episode 2, is when the king is deciding who he's going to marry, right? And you have Rhaenyra, who is in the room, right? And she's she is now christened the heir to the throne. The king is like, I'm going to hook up and marry Alicent. And this is Rhaenyra's best friend, right?
Yeah, that was painful.
And the way her face dropped, and the way Allison's face was like, oh shoot, because I haven't told you about anything that's been going on between me and your dad. You know, and you're like think if you think about like how much has happened in those 2 episodes, the characters being pushed and manipulated and moved and things like that, and then these irrevocable breaks in friendship and trust, um, and then just that's kind of that end like that was just like what was the end of the Rings of Power? What was the end of the like? I can't even.
The second episode or the first one?
The second one.
Well, they're not Sauron and Galadriel are like floating around
on the
the
ship.
Numenor.
It's like, I don't know who he is. I barely know who Galadriel is, and I don't care who this ship is that's just turned up. You know, we don't know anything about Gandalf, who's been trying to remember who he is. We don't know, you know,
Jim
it's
Henson.
just like,
yeah.
You know, it's like nothing has really changed. Nothing is changing these characters, changing their situations. Blah, nothing. But yeah, no. So I there's so much going on. So Biffer says my favorite movies, similar to Lord of the Rings, is How to Train Your Dragon. I've only seen the first one, and I really
You gotta
really
see more. You gotta see more. You gotta see the second one. Okay, you know what? To be fair, I haven't seen the third one, so I don't know. What am I saying?
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Sorry. First movie's great. How to Train Your Dragon 1 is fantastic. It's good. It's good.
I absolutely agree. I love that. Wahab says I do prefer House of Dragon over Rings of Power, aside from the obscenity in the series.
We talked about the obscenity in the series.
Doesn't mind me. I'm alright.
We kind of agreed that it did feel like it had some sort of purpose to it other than being gratuitous.
I think so. I think there was more purpose to it than anything in Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was just getting off, and this was, Frank says Luke should only watch How to Train Your Dragon when Phil watches Best of the Worst. Yes.
Dude, what if I just watch Best of the Worst tonight?
Dude, you have a year's worth to catch up on.
Oh,
So once you've caught up on a year's worth of Best of the Worst, I will.
I know the classics, you know, Shakma.
Yeah, but there's more. There's new classics. There's new classics.
Okay.
There's new classics.
How about Frank? Just send me the best one so far. Can I start from there and then just?
Okay, if Frank wants to tell you the best of the last 12 months, then sure. The other thing that. Well, Wahab says, I might watch Best of the Worst out of curiosity. Best of the Worst is great, Wahab. If you've ever seen like Mystery Science Theater sort of stuff, the Red Letter Media guys do their spin on it, where they watch bad movies, make fun of them, and discuss them, and it's really fun, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
It's always very funny. Yeah,
Claire and I love sitting down and watching that. They are a lot of fun. Yeah, so I think what's also quite interesting is I'm the trajectory of the characters, and I couldn't help but compare Rhaenyra to Galadriel in this situation, because Galadriel is just kind of walking around in Rings of Power being like, Sauron is here, Sauron is here, no one is listening to me, Sauron is here, you know, and you're just kind of like, shut up, just shut up. Like, move on. Either make it firm that we all know this, or stop it. You know, maybe would have been more interesting if they were all oblivious. I don't know, but either way, I think the whole thing is pointless to me. You know, so you're just sort of waiting for something to happen, and you're waiting for something to happen that you already know is going to happen in Rings of Power. With Sauron,
that's what sucks so much about Rings of Power, is that they didn't have to do this, but they put themselves in the same. Like the same pigeonhole that adheres to exactly what happens in Lord of the Rings, like the Lord of the Rings, true Lord of the Rings, story.
Whereas
they never had to do that. They didn't have to do that at all.
No,
unbelievable, and they made it boring.
They did, but then when you think about then you think about Rhaenyra's trajectory, and where she's going, and you're like, you feel so much more for her. I
Oh,
think,
ooh, yeah, man.
like she has to deal with the loss of her mother, the loss of another sibling, an uncle who is
Yeah,
bit
that
mental,
that hurt. Yeah, yeah.
and wants the throne over her. A dad
A
who has
wet
taken her
blanket.
best wet blanket, but who has taken her best friend away from her. Like in episode 3, when we get to episode, she feels so lonely, and you feel lonely with her, right?
It's
And
sad.
it is sad.
And it's also interesting how these episodes skip so many years between them.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't
Lord of
quite
the
realize.
Rings.
Uh, I didn't quite realize how much time was going to skip between episodes.
Me
I
either.
don't think a lot of I feel like a lot of time didn't pass between the first 2 episodes, but then the second one, between 2 and 3, like 3 years passed. And that was something I didn't quite grasp on the first 2 watches, the first 2 episodes. But then it was always really obvious in the third episode, because now the king, and this is where things are going to get really interesting. And again, the dynamics are changing every episode. The dynamics
Yep.
do not change whatsoever in the first 2 episodes of Rings of Power. They change not one bit. Not even Gandalf crashing to Earth changes anything.
Changed anything? No.
They all see the stupid meteorite, and then they never talk about it. They don't care. So it's like
Absolutely not.
nothing is changing. Whereas episode 3, she is on her own. Her Alicent has produced a male child for the king,
She
and
has produced a male.
her father Otto is adamant that this child will be the next king, which means there's all this motivation out there to have the king take away the appointed heirship, however you phrase that, of Rhaenyra, and pass it over to his son, which then puts Otto's family into the royal line, far more than what it was just having his daughter be the queen, right?
Yes.
Oh, Phil is struggling.
Um,
And it's like
it doesn't take much, unfortunately.
you're down in that booze like water,
Yeah.
aren't you?
Oh, Wahab said Phil is glowing. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you
I mean, I
very
think he's got a
much.
little. Oh, yes, he did. Yes, yes. So yeah, like I don't know, you're getting so much. You're getting so much more out of this. Wahab says, if we could compare Galadriel's hunt for Sauron in the series and Gandalf investigating the evil spreading in The Hobbit, Gandalf's journey is more interesting, albeit some things are made up. I agree. This was
Yes.
my other problem with the Rings of Power, and that was we've seen everything that's happening in The Hobbit already.
Yeah.
So, like, what? Stop yawning, Philip.
I'm so sorry. I can't control myself.
Wahab also says he read the Unfinished Tales chapter concerning Galadriel and Celeborn for proper story and context, etc.
Nice.
Well,
See, I didn't do that yet.
yes, I'm sure when you read that you were wondering what in the hell happened to Rings of Power. Because the thing it's interesting, right, is House of the Dragon has filled hashtag coffee for Phil.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm drinking out of my big sleep mug, and glorious coffee. Because I guess I want to be up all night. But
Apparently you do.
what's interesting about this show, about House of the Dragon, right? Especially when you think of the character of Rhaenyra, is this show is doing a really interesting commentary on patriarchal systems without being ham-fisted, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
Whereas Lord of the Rings, the show itself wasn't uber preachy. It was just badly written, but the media buzz every time the actors are speaking about how important their roles are, like it's all about sort of preaching a message, right?
Yes.
And it's like, stop it. Whereas with this show, it's
Stop
like
that and behave yourself.
literally, but like with this
Honestly.
one, you you actually you sit there and that conversation between Rhaenyra and her second cousin, I guess, was like really meaningful when you know she sees when Rhaenyra sees her father and Alicent together from that lofty space,
Yeah.
and then the queen who would be or the queen
Yeah,
who never
yeah, yeah.
was is sitting behind her, and you know Rhaenyra thinks she's trying to goad her and all that kind of stuff, and you know whatnot, and she's like no, she's like I'm actually not. She's like this system is a terrible system, and you know I'm a victim of it, and you're a victim of it, and if you know it's time for things to change. And it's like yeah, like the way they're doing it is it's such a more it's such a more impactful way of conveying these sorts of messages, I think.
Because they make you feel them. They make you
Yes.
they put you in that thinking mode of seeing what it's like to be talking about it and
Mm.
dealing with those situations as every drama should be doing. Every
Which is
scripted, drama should be doing is like it puts you in that world so you can
yes,
absorb it and then you can make your own like decisions about it and think about it.
which is why I love classic Star Trek.
Wow,
and
we went
and
woo.
Well, no, it's a good one,
Let's go.
and not the new stuff, because with classic Star Trek, you get that you get two opposing views that come together and clash, and you
Mhm.
begin to understand the motivations and reasonings behind
Yeah.
both sides before you land on your outcome at the end, which is obviously it's going to be the kind of it's not always going to be most time it's the morally right one, but sometimes it's a bit gray, and they don't land there. But the best shows do that, and this show is doing that
The best shows do that's
perfectly.
the good shows, quality writing, that's what it does to you, you know. I remember when Stan Lee said he was talking about they were wanting to they were in this sort of like there was with the comics code
Hmm.
and they were talking about the comics code and he said we're not allowed to talk about drugs in the comics anymore because of the code and he's like you can't you can't do that until you show people how it is because that's how you reach people. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's how you do it, and that's
I
you
mean,
have to you have to
absolutely,
demonstrate.
absolutely. Because again, I think what's interesting and with this show is in the third episode where there's so much pressure being put on Rhaenyra to she needs to get married. And there's all these dickheads who are like, "Oh, I would love to marry your daughter,"
Oh yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it's she's like, "What if I don't want to get married?" And it's like it's you get that
It's a
sense
bit
of
like
like
Brave, but yeah, I get
you
it.
know
Sorry.
she's getting that sort of she's getting pushed into a corner she doesn't want to be in. And
Yeah,
what I do like though is that there's this really kind of bittersweet scene between her and her father
yeah,
where um where he's trying to lay down what the reasons are behind this, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think he does so really well, I think, and she begins to understand it. But then what's quite important in that scene is he's like, and this again is sort of breaking from tradition. He's like, I don't care who it is. He's like, you pick the person, and it's nice because it's like, okay, she's had so much agency sort of taken away from her, and now agency is she's reclaiming more agency by pushing back, and now she's able to kind of live her life, and pick, and it's obvious. Well, it's obvious at the moment that I feel like that person is going to be Kristen, the night guy, Sir Kristen Cole,
The
right?
good-looking night guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious. Well, I feel it's obvious, but this is a Game of Thrones world. Anything could change.
He might die. He
Um,
might get his head chopped
he
off.
literally might die. But I think that's what's really great about this show is this swing from positive to negative for every character all the time. Um, it's just I'm really quite hooked on it. What does Wahab say? Wahab says House of the Dragons build up of the characters and the tensions of the events is well made. I agree. Although I don't like the philosophies and the dialogue when it comes to the concepts of ruling, etc. I don't think I agree with you on that, but that's fine. We can agree to disagree. Well,
But
maybe
what?
explain yourself. Explain what you mean, Wahab, because I'm not
But
sure if
what?
that's why. Yeah.
But what
Go.
I do feel is important, especially in the milieu that we're talking about, is just that they made the concept very they I forgot the word. They expressed the concept
Hmm.
well. This is kind of how you should do it instead of how like She-Hulk does it or something like that.
Right. That's a really good point. You can actually, yeah, if you think about She-Hulk, where there's that stupid scene where she's like, "I'm mad all the time because some guy catcalled me," and like Bruce is like, "Yeah, my mom killed herself." So yeah, whatever. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a perfect example of that where She-Hulk is just sitting there telling you all of these bad things that happen to her, and you haven't seen it, you haven't connected with it, so therefore you don't care. But where House of Dragon is nailing it is we are seeing, they are showing and not telling the problems of this kind of society and this kind of structure with power, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I don't think these sort of the philosophies when it comes to their concepts of ruling are necessarily meant to be praised, Wahab. I think they're demonstrating the problems. Some of the characters don't realize their problems. Some of the characters buy this philosophy, but others, for example, like Viserys' cousin, the woman who, what's her name, the queen who never was, she doesn't buy it. She's frustrated with the whole thing and has had to be frustrated with it for her whole life, or at least the last 20 years or so. So yeah. Christy Joe says Luke is logical.
Most logical.
It's all that time being a fan of Spock and Sherlock Holmes. Um,
Rubbed off on you.
exactly.
Yes.
Um, yeah, no. So I'm
Listening with look at
again.
that. Look at the hashtags are showing up. You see Dance with the Phil, listening with Phil, Phil.jpg. I like it.
Well, anyway, Wahab, like go back and rewatch it if you want to, like, because I think they're not praising these. Yeah, they're not praising these sorts of ideas. But let's talk about that last 30 minutes of episode 3.
I was a bit confused. You want to talk about tactics for a bit? You want to talk about tactics?
We can talk about tactics.
Tactics in warfare?
Maybe I should have wore my tactical turtleneck. That's an Archer reference for anyone in
Oh,
the
yeah,
audience.
I've only seen like one episode. Anyway, what I wanted to say was how does a dude pretend to surrender? Oh, well, yeah, I want to talk about the crab people. Okay, so they're like from Davy Jones' ship. They're
Yeah, there
cursed.
will be spoilers, by the way. Wahab says, "Oh, LPRB, no spoilers." Yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
he said he'll be right back.
Spoilers.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So there's like crab people, right? This is
Crab
one thing that
people,
I have
crab
to. This is
people.
one thing that I just have to criticize with Game of Thrones, and it's not a big criticism, but like I always felt like maybe in Game of Thrones OG, there were enough enemies that were like a big civilization that were like clean, trim, proper, but they were evil or they were bad. But what I don't like is like, and I love the ice zombies. Ice zombies
Sure.
from the original are great. Totally mucked that up in the last season. Very, very disappointing. But now we have crab people. You know what I mean?
Crab
Instead of
people.
instead of zombie snowmen, we have crab people. And I just feel a little bit like it would have been better if it wasn't just filthy, dirty, zombie people again.
Well, it was just
Like if
the
they're
one.
if it
It's just the one
okay.
guy. The crab feeder is the only one who is like messed up in the
That's
face and
true.
stuff
I
like that.
forgot about that.
The
Yeah,
others
yeah,
are
yeah,
just
yeah.
normal dudes, normal looking dudes. Um,
Okay, that's one thing.
m- my
Second thing,
criticism. Oh, go on. What's the second thing? Go on.
tactics.
Yes.
How does this one dude expect to run over into the enemy base, create this flag, say they surrender? Everyone believes him. Okay, that's fine. I can understand that in warfare. Trades have always been happening between, deserters and usurpers and people who switch sides and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
when he's so surrounded by so many people, how does he expect to survive, especially with expert archers on either sides of the walls? He would be dead in an instant. And I know that sounds so nitpicky for me,
I don't
but
even care.
I know, but like
It was so awesome.
there was a better way of doing it, I think. I think there was a better way of doing it.
Here's why I liked it. I agree. And it's like, sure, I know there's all these archers, but think about it. Like Lord of the Rings does the same thing.
It
Like
does
there's
the same thing.
not just rings of power,
I
but
know, I
actual.
know,
Yeah,
I know, I know,
yeah.
I know. Aragorn
So
single-handedly fights a ton of Uruk-hai up
yeah,
there on Amunhen.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
miracle this man is still standing and fighting.
Correct.
But there's something about the archetype in Lord of the Rings that gets a pass, because you kind of understand the
I will give you the pass.
language, you know,
I'll
and
give you the pass.
I didn't feel the pass here. I didn't I it didn't pass for me in this
It
case.
it passed
It
for
was
me.
mildly annoying to me, mildly.
Oh, it passed for me, and I'll tell you why.
Okay,
And
go on.
it's he has been fighting these crab people again. That's a South Park reference. He
Okay.
and his Valerian or Valerian, whatever his name is.
You mean Wooly?
Um yeah,
Sorry,
whatever.
there's a friend of
Lord,
mine. His name is Wooly, and he has like dreads, and he looks.
right, yeah, Valerian, that's it. That guy. Him, Matt Smith.
Fantasy Wooly. Sorry.
Yeah, Matt Smith has been fighting the crab people for 3 years now. He's had zero help from his brother. The war is going poorly, and then all of a sudden, the king comes up, sends a message after being manipulated and pushed into doing something, and is like, oh hi, Matt Smith, I'm gonna come and help out and send you some ships because you're doing a shit job. And he loses his mind. He beats the crap out of the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger, right? And
Yeah,
that's
but that's what he did.
he beats the crap out of the messenger. And what's so great about this scene, in my opinion, is Matt Smith doesn't say a word.
Yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
doesn't. He reads the note. He does his Matt Smith acting. There's no talking. There's just acting, and he is saying so much by saying nothing, and I loved it.
Yeah, Matt
Beats the
Smith is
crap
very good at that.
beats
Yes.
the crap out of the dude, and then does the crazy thing because you know what he's not going to do. He's not going to let his brother take credit for defeating these people, and he would rather risk his life and die trying than to accept the help of his brother.
Right.
And so for him, it is, while yes, it is outrageous and everything, it is a desperate man doing a desperate act out of jealousy, out of
Desperation.
spite, out of whatever, to not cave into what
Pride.
his pride, you know what I mean? Like that's, yeah. Um,
And he succeeds.
and he succeeds. And there, for me, I was like, I'm in, sold. You just made Matt Smith a total badass. This raggedy doctor guy is now. I'm like, he can now be an action dude. He has proven himself worthy of
Yeah.
action. Chief Brody Rules says, "Is Matt Smith better for television, or is it just bad movie roles?"
It's bad movie
roles, definitely. 100% bad movie roles. He is a terrific actor. He, he shined in Doctor Who. He shined in the first two seasons of The Crown. Um, but I think his movie choices, for whatever reason, haven't done him any favors. And I'm hoping that Game of Thrones will House of the Dragon will
Yeah, yeah.
open up better opportunities for him, because I would love to see him doing other things.
Other things that
You know,
enhances acting chops.
yeah, definitely. Um,
By the way, Steve Toussaint, who played
that's it,
Valerian,
Valarian.
he was in Judge Dredd.
Wait, in the 1995 one.
Yeah,
Wait, who was he?
he was Hunter Squad leader.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah. So things are connected a lot of times.
they are connected, because next week we're having a Judge Dredd talk. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So I don't know if this is of interest to anyone else, but it is of interest to me. And we can cap off our conversation by discussing the ratings of this show, of these shows, right?
Yes.
So obviously, all of the Lord of the Rings people are crying because Amazon review, not Amazon, but IMDb, they're saying has been review bombed by trolls and all that kind of stuff, and
Sure.
maybe a few, maybe.
There's always someone somewhere.
But what's interesting to me is the Rings of Power. I won't talk about the middle ratings, but the 10-star ratings, there are 34,924.
Mm-hmm.
The 1-star ratings are 26,505. Now, those are not all from trolls.
No.
Do I think there are 26,000 people out there who watched that show and didn't like it? I kind of would buy that, because it's a stinker of a show. But maybe not that many. Let's account and say there's a few of them might be trolls, right? But it's silly. It's silly, I think, to when the modern. You're invisible, Phil. We can't see you. You're hidden behind your microphone.
Sorry.
The modern kind of idea that these particular shows like to do, and that is like with She-Hulk, like with Rings of Power, like with other things, like what was that shitty Marvel movie? Miss Marvel,
Which one?
Marvel, Captain Marvel, yeah, right.
Captain Marvel.
Loki, all that kind of stuff. When these things are being critiqued and people are like, I don't like this, I'm gonna give a bad review. I'm gonna it frustrates me that the instant reaction from these companies is to turn this around and try and say, we're being review bombed, this is just trolls, yada yada yada, right?
They always do that. They've always done that in the past 4 years. I think that's I think it started in 2016.
Yeah.
I think it might have started in 2016 when wasn't the incident the biggest one was it Suicide? No, it wasn't Suicide Squad. What could it have been?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Chief Brody rules.
Yeah, so it's interesting to me. Like, what does he say? Yes, I did just watch it. I think Lord of the Rings will have more trolls. People want Amazon to fail with their billion-dollar gamble. I don't think. Yes, I agree that there are people out there. There are people out there, Phil included, who want Amazon to fail with the gamble. I didn't want them to fail because I think it does no one any good to produce trash.
I mean, that's true. Yes. Yeah. Being serious, that's absolutely right. Because it's not going to help.
This doesn't do Tolkien any favors. This doesn't do Lord of the Rings any favors. This doesn't do
the future of it doesn't do the future of Lord of the Rings productions any favors, and it doesn't do any favors to this format
Yeah.
either.
And the people who
Unfortunately.
wanted to, yeah, the people who wanted to fail, have some of them have justified reasons, and that is they are frustrated because the lore has been so deviated from. Now, there are, as we discussed earlier in the episode, yeah, there are people out there who are complaining about race changes and all that kind of stuff. My personal opinion on that is I don't give a fuck. Like, I know some people do, and I know people like to say that Lord of the Rings was a Anglo myth, but we are kidding ourselves if we're thinking that only white people lived in England and Britain since the beginning of time, because that's just not true. It's always been a multicultural nation, predominantly in the cities, obviously. So I think the idea of being that literal with something that Tolkien himself was like, this isn't a literal interpretation of England or Britain, right? So the idea that people are frustrated that those people, I think, are the minority, and I think that is a pointless argument, and that does no good for anyone or anything, because it doesn't.
Right.
It's a world where, I get it. It's a world where there are dragons and monsters and gods and things like that. So it's like, get over the fact that there's a black hobbit. Like, why does that bother you so much? Like, that shouldn't bother you, because if the story's good, the acting's good, who gives a shit? The only thing to really criticize with Rings of Power is the writing and the acting, and the writing and the acting are terrible, because of the show itself, but not because of those particular
No.
those particular changes. Chief Brody says, I think there's another argument about how they do streaming and shows and deals. There's like another thing going on why people want to troll Amazon. And then there was a Twitter thread or article, I don't recall the details there, just saying that it's not all about the actual show. Oh, right, I see what you're saying. Maybe, probably. I mean, loads of people don't like Amazon for all sorts of reasons, because they are next in line after Disney in terms of their control over everything. So I'm sure there are trolls that do want to go after Amazon and will try to use Lord of the Rings to do it. The problem that I have is most of the rhetoric about the show is trying to blame the trolling on people being anti, basically being racist, and it's like, and it's
they
like,
find
that's
the extreme, and then they just point at the extreme stuff. See, this is how you all are. This is why it's failing.
Yeah,
Not
and
failing.
what's interesting,
No, they wouldn't say that, but you know what I mean.
In contrast, though, House of the Dragon has the exact same kind of diverse representation of, you have people of color in this show. More than just that, but yes, you have him. It's a very diverse cast. No one bats an eye at it. One of your main protagonists is a female who is going to be queen, and she's a dragon rider, and she's pretty awesome. You have the same ingredients that are in the Rings of Power that are in House of the Dragon, and House of the Dragon is nailing everything. And also the rhetoric, the critical response there's no one harping on really about those particular issues with this show. There have been a few articles here and there and a few little spats, but predominantly House of the Dragon is crushing it. And it's interesting to me that their IMDb rating has 50,000 10-star votes. Right?
Okay.
Huge number. Their one-star ratings are 4,512.
Okay.
And that
out of what was that again?
Out of how many in total?
Yeah.
So there 10-star ratings. There's 50,973.
Oh, okay, got it. And
of the
1
10
star
stars.
is Yeah.
There's only 4,512.
Right. Yeah.
And I find that incredibly interesting because both of these shows have the same kind of ingredients. They're really
Yeah.
targeting the same sort of fans, right? But one show is being panned by individuals, by the audience, while the other show is far exceeding this, right? And while they're at a little bit of, you know, dickery from people who want to see Amazon fall,
Good bit. Good bit.
I don't think that I wouldn't even say that half of the 1-star reviews on Rings of Power on IMDb are trolls.
Yeah. No. Come on.
I really wouldn't.
Come on. There's a lot of disappointment to be had in Rings of Power.
There's a lot. There is. You know, I mean, the first 2 episodes we watched them and nothing happened for 2 hours. It was dull. It was just stagnant. It was stale. It regurgitated everything we've already seen and know about Lord of the Rings and offers nothing new. Whereas House of the Dragon is not relying on remember Game of Thrones or pushing it in your face that this is going to lead to Game of Thrones. It's, you know, it's there. Those seeds are there, and it's subtle. But Lord of the Rings of Power, you need to have seen and read Tolkien to understand kind of what's going on. Whereas House of the Dragon, you don't. You don't need to know what happens in Game of Thrones just to know what's happening or why things are happening in this, right? And I think it's a testament to the much sharper storytelling, the much sharper writing that we are getting in House of the Dragon versus what we're getting in Rings of the Power. Rings of the Power? Rings of Power.
Rings of the Power.
You know, and I think I
the
really,
rings
you know,
of the power.
Yeah, I do think the audience reaction, these audience scores, are a genuine reflection of the quality of the show.
I can't deny this.
I also, because again, I think it's suspicious is hell that Amazon are like, oh, you can now review the show. Okay, well, I reviewed it, but they're not posting any reviews.
Yeah. No,
At least
that's
when I checked earlier
absolutely
today.
sus. No, that's sus, dude.
You know, and I am more in favor and more forgiving of films and studios who don't try and manipulate the system, because again, with the Marvel products, every Marvel show that has come out lately
They
is
do the same thing.
certified fresh straight away. Like people haven't even seen the whole season; they're certifying it fresh.
Of
Now,
course.
House of the Dragon could turn around and just end up being crap after everything we've just
That would
seen.
be very sad.
I don't think it will be. I'm saying for now the show is great and keep watching. With Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, I'm saying those first 2 episodes are dull as shit, and I don't want to watch anymore. But back to the Marvel stuff, like these shows are sort of certified fresh based on 2 episodes, which I think is bad practice because you haven't seen
It
the whole
is.
product. You're giving your review based on a little bit and not the whole thing, and that's not okay. B to my A, that was just that. On Rotten Tomatoes, they will say that we have 300 reviews, 300 positive reviews, and they will display 0 to 1.
Yep.
And I'm not denying that there are 300 positive reviews out there, that there are 300 positive media shills. But why are you not showing me any of the reviews?
No.
I don't trust you. I don't trust Rotten Tomatoes. I trust IMDb because they are just letting people do the reviews. They're not stopping or
Even though they're owned by
gatekeeping.
Amazon.
That's true. That's quite interesting.
I like that. I like that pause. Quite interesting.
It is interesting. That is. I forgot about that. That's a really good point. And yeah. So it's
I just
fascinating
remembered. Chief Brody
they're-
Rules said something.
Yeah.
Hashtag Phil Rings of the Power.jpg.
Oh, there we go.
Rings of the Power.
So yeah, I am thoroughly enjoying House of the Dragon, which is a shock given our experience with Game of Thrones.
Same. I'm gonna watch episode 4 clearly.
Yes,
So
get the mic out of your face, bro.
I'm gonna watch episode 4 clearly. Yo, I'm gonna watch episode 4.
Yo,
House
it's
of the Dragon.
it's the bomb.
It's the bomb. House of the Dragon. There's not much that rhymes with dragon.
Dragon,
That was perfect.
bow bagging. I don't. Did talking to the mic, Phil, or talking to the Nick, Phil.
I'm trying
love
to
it.
talking. See, you said get your
That's
face
too
out of the mic, and then I'm like, I have to talk into the mic. So it's either you see my face or you hear my voice.
No,
Sometimes
you
it's
need to
fine.
angle it better.
What about this? Is this good?
It's yeah. You're like hugging your mic like you're like a drunk man on a night out. Be like, oh, Bruce, I love you, Bruce. You know, Bruce, like Bruce, you are my
Come
favorite
on, give me some
of
more
all
of
my
that
friends,
beer.
Bruce.
Kids.
I was watching early Simpsons episodes just 2 days ago.
I
Made me
really want to
happy.
do that.
They're really good.
Because they're all on
Disney Plus.
Yeah. I do feel like I should. I was watching a bunch of Futurama, and I thoroughly
Oh
enjoyed
yeah.
Futurama. Frank says, I want to see and hear Phil. Yes, we all do. We want to see and hear Phil.
Okay, I'm trying. I'm trying my best. Maybe I should just get a lapel. What if
You
it's like
should.
this, like a boom? How's this?
You should.
Is this good?
Well, I mean, no, because it's literally right in your face. But, like,
Is this
maybe.
good?
That works.
Can you hear me okay? It's like a boom. It works.
I can hear you all right. Yeah.
Man, boom mics actually really work.
Yes, they
No
do
wonder.
work. They actually do.
I can just hold it. Let's see how long I can hold this until my arm starts shaking. Yeah.
Yeah. But so there we go. That's our Rings of Power. Or
We
sorry, our
present
House
to
of
you
the
the Itchy
Dragon.
and Scratchy Show.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yes, this is our House of the Dragon episodes 1 to 3
Absolutely.
discussion.
House of the Dragon was dragging me to the next episode.
There we go.
I did it.
Frank says I tweeted Phil the 5 best of the worst episodes. So I guess
see it over there. I see. You gave
There
me an
you go.
at Phil Dragish, and it says something raffle. Okay, so I was like, that was a suggested video, and I didn't press it, but I will now.
You should do, man. You should do. Frank also said the first 10 seasons of The Simpsons.
Absolutely,
was
it's been
best.
yes.
Okay.
I've watched like a bunch of season 1 episodes and season 2 episodes, and they're so good. They're absolutely good. Like they are so interesting to watch. Like after it's done, it's like candy. I want to watch another one. And it's so smart. It's really smart. And I think that's not surprising because everyone knows it's a 30-year-old show, for crying out loud.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was. I mean, I haven't watched The Simpsons since I left the States, which was, I don't know, 14 years ago or something like that. I don't know anymore. But even in the States, it had kind of lost its
Charm.
you know. But maybe I
Overstayed
should
its
watch.
welcome.
Okay, so Chief Brody says 4 to 6 are his favorite seasons.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you know, there in most shows, there is a sort of sweet spot that tends to be between seasons 3 to 6.
Yeah, where they hit their stride and they're firing on all
most
cylinders.
shows that I like kind of have the sweet spot is right there. Chief Brody says 2 to 6. Lol.
Like I love like the one episode that I watched. I kind of picked them at random from season 1 to 5, and I picked one from season 2, I think, where it was the foreign exchange student where they took Bart to France.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
And it was wonderful. It was wonderful because I didn't everything that happened I didn't expect whatsoever, and it made me laugh, and it there's always some kind of twist that happens that made me chuckle and be happy.
Yeah. Julie Mitchell says 8
And some Braille.
and some brown. Does that mean episode 8 of episode 8 season
Season
8
8?
of Simpsons is good?
Season 8
Do
of The
you
Simpsons.
do you think that something like Rick and Morty are going to try and push for a
Marge!
Simpsons sort of
Yeah, he had to make wine. Sorry,
linger?
I'm reading Chief Brody one. He had to make wine for French criminals. And then he
Yeah,
learned
that
Fran-
rings a bell. I think I remember that now.
Good.
Actually, I think I do remember that. Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, do you think that Rick and Morty are going to try and push for that sort of longevity, a Simpsons longevity?
Well, I don't know. Is Rick and Morty's not over, right? There's going to be another
Nope.
one.
They just released another one, and they have like, I think they had like a renewal for like 50 or 60 episodes.
Phil needs to say frosty chocolate milkshakes.
We just did.
Frosty chocolate milkshakes.
He said it twice.
I don't understand. I'm not sure.
I don't
understand.
have any idea what that is about.
I'm not sure I understand, but I said it anyway.
Frank, do you want him to say it so that you can clip that and use that somewhere?
Frosty chocolate milkshakes.
Is that like
I didn't see the
okay.
episode yet.
Okay.
Frosty chocolate milkshakes.
Haven't seen the
Frosty.
episode. That would be why. That would be why. Gosh
Or as
darn
I
it.
call them, the gruesome twosome.
So I'm excited for next week.
Tell me about next week.
Next week,
Because it's exciting.
it is exciting. It's an early Homer line. Okay. Next
Frosty
week
chocolate milkshakes.
we are doing something really fun. We are bringing another author on named David Bishop.
David Bishop.
David Bishop. He has written for 2000 AD, the comics, a lot of Judge Dredd.
2000
He
AD.
has written Doctor Who novels, and a whole assortment of things.
That's
Currently publishing historical crime fiction novels at the moment. As
Wow.
Well. We are bringing him on because we are going to talk about Judge Dredd.
That's right.
Phil and I had never seen the original Judge Dredd movie with Sylvester Stallone. That was terrible. That was terrible.
You need to obey the law. The law.
I am the law. I am the law. It was so bad. Anyway,
I can't do it.
yeah. So we watched the 1995 Judge Dredd movie the other day with Christy Joe.
Christy
and
Joe, who's hopefully still here or not.
It was glorious fun. We're not going to talk about our thoughts on that film right now, but we watched it and it was fun to watch. We're also going to rewatch the 2012 version with Carl Urban, and basically we're going to just kind of bash out some Dredd conversation, what it was like for David to write for the comics, what it was like seeing the character brought to life poorly and nicely on the big screen, and also some of the other kind of writing experiences that he has. But it's going to be a very drudging.
It's going to be a very drudging episode.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be a fun time chatting with David about Judge Dredd. And
Absolutely,
stuff like that.
I can't wait to meet David Bishop, and let's. I want to hear from his writing experience.
Yes. Frank says, I was one of 3 people that saw the 2020.
That is so sad. That is so sad.
Again, I'm not going to go into the 2012 one, but I will say that I really like it, and it's a shame that it never got a sequel.
I've only seen it in 2012, so I can't wait to see it again.
Yeah, no, I think it's very good. I enjoyed it. I liked Carl Urban. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to spoil that conversation now. But I also recently picked up today some Judge Dredd
there you
comics. You know,
I am the
gonna
law.
gonna go through some of this. I find the character quite fascinating. It was in the theater. Oh, it was only in the theater for a week. Are you serious? Oh man, that's awful. That's
That's
awful.
very awful. Because I think that if it had the longevity of Top Gun Maverick, I think it would have done
Mm,
well.
well, it, yeah, it did flop,
There's an
and
earthquake. Oh no. Whoa.
it
This
did
is the
flop.
Star Trek method.
It is a Star Trek method. It's a shame that it flopped.
It's a
Because
shame. It's a huge
yeah,
shame.
yeah. I enjoy it. I enjoy it. But yeah, so we're gonna discuss both movies with David, and also what it was like writing for the comics and things like that.
Absolutely.
I,
Very exciting. Next week,
yes,
Wednesday.
next Wednesday,
Next
7:30
Wednesday, yeah.
p.m. GMT. Be here or be square. Chief Bird Rule says, "I want to see it again. I wanted to see it again the second week, but it was already gone. That is a
That's sad.
shame.
I think
Sadly,
Frank has a lot of movie theater like stories he can tell us because he's
I think so. We should bring
yeah
Frank on one day.
yeah.
Oh, and look, I actually have Judge Dredd action figures.
You also have Brack.
I do have Brack. I even, despite not seeing the film until 2 days ago, I for some reason have these. These
Oh, you
were.
have the.
I've got the robot. I've got the robot.
Ah!
Um,
Wow, that's
you know,
wonderful.
I don't. I think it was a birthday gift or something like that. That was given to me.
Show
Um,
the figures, Luke. Show the
for
figures.
And I always wondered
Ah.
why is Judge Dredd in this lime green suit when he's not in that color of a suit in the movie. It always annoyed
Yeah,
me because he looks like the movie,
he
but then
exactly
he
looks like
doesn't
the
look
movie
like the
one.
movie.
Yeah,
And I
that
was
one
like,
doesn't.
I'm like, maybe this is like from the comic,
Why is it
and
what
this is,
lime green?
yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. But there you go. Those are the figures. I'm sure everyone was thrilled to see them. Um,
I was.
but
I
then
was so
also,
happy.
why is he so flat? I don't know. He is like wafer thin,
That way
wafer
he can fit
thin.
in through those really, like the hallways, the futuristic hallways and alleyways of the
I
future.
guess. I guess.
You're
Oh
under
man.
arrest.
Oh, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. But yeah, no, it was weird having these toys as a kid
I
because
am the
all I knew of
law.
Judge Dredd at the time was purely just
Imagery.
what the trailers were. That was it.
Mm.
But I still wanted to be the character. I still pretended to be Dredd from time to time.
I knew
Um,
you were gonna say that.
I knew you were gonna say that. Oh God, that that
I knew you were gonna
catchphrase.
say that.
But yeah, any questions? Does
Any
Frank?
questions while
What
we like
questions do you got
just
for us while we're
yeah,
while we're
while we
still
while
here
we
chit
while we
chatting
slowly
away?
fade away until next week.
We just wait. We just wait.
Just wait a bit.
Because obviously, if you haven't noticed, I don't think I've fully watched that Dread movie. Watch it. It's bizarre. It takes so many turns with the plot and where it goes. You're like, wait a minute,
Yeah,
we're here now. Whoa, we're here now. Wait, what? It is funny and fun, and
I think it's fun for a one-time viewing.
yeah. I don't need to see it again. Once was enough. But like, I'm glad I've finally seen it because yeah, it's fun. It's had some crazy some crazy stuff in it.
And it had
That
Diane
came out of left
Lane.
field. It had Diane Lane. It had Martha. What episodes do you have planned for the show? I will tell you, Franklin. I will tell
I will
you.
tell you. I will tell
So,
you. I'm the law.
Hey, what do you think?
I knew you were gonna say that.
so we have planned. Let's see. So yeah, next week is David Bishop chatting Dredd. September 21st is an uncertain we're uncertain about the topic, but it might be Andor because Andor comes out, and that might be fun to.
I
That
have
might
to
be
watch
fun to
that.
talk
Well,
about.
me and KJ, we're the Star Wars show buddies, so that's what we're gonna do.
Yes. So
We suffered through Boba Fett, and then we barely climbed out of the cesspool that was Obi-Wan. I think that we're weathered enough that we can handle Andor.
Phil has paused, and I don't know if it.
Now Luke has paused.
Okay, I'm back. I think I'm back. There we go.
That's
For
what you
some
said.
reason, the
Tilled out the kanji club. Now look. I don't know what you're talking about. Get out of my ship.
yeah,
Get
you,
off my plane.
Oh, Chief Brody
talk-
Rules. Tell us real quick, Frankles. Tell us a little bit about your experience watching Jaws on the big screen.
Wait, you asked someone in the chat to tell us about your experience. Talk about something, because I need to send a quick message.
Okay, so I would love to watch Jaws on the big screen, but I'm afraid that my week is gonna be sad and depressing because I have a phobia. It's ridiculous. I have a phobia watching Jaws. Last time I watched it was with Luke and Claire over the internet, and the movie is fantastic, but when it was finished, I had a whole day the next day it was just bleak to me. I just felt like depressed.
Keep going.
And Chief Brody Rules says, "Watch Jaws on the big screen, fellep. I'll only do it if someone goes with me, like for real, on the big screen.
Keep going.
If I go to London, then I'll watch Jaws on the big screen.
Keep going.
And I need to why? What are you talking about, Luke?
Just keep going.
Okay, so Frank, I remember when we had that wonderful conversation when I was live on Instagram that one time like a year ago, and it was magical because we never talked before, but we had such a good convo about stuff. And Chief Brody Rules says, Jaws is wonderful. I cried when they attached the first barrel. Bum bum ba-dum bum bum ba-dum bum bum bum. Movie magic.
Right. I'm
Cinematic
back.
tour de force. The emotions were there, expressed with one catch of the barrel, where they attached it to the shark's fin, and the music played, John Williams, and you knew you were watching a great film made out of the desperation and heartache and headache and exhaustion of all the crew in 1974. Because they had
Indeed.
a hard time.
They did. Sorry, I'm back. I needed to just do something with the Wi-Fi. Because
Chief Brody Rules, I will answer this very quickly. Jaws made me depressed because I remember our family, like my parents and I think some other friends, all were like, we're having a movie night, we're watching Jaws. And I said, what's Jaws about? And then my mom said, well, it's about a shark that comes every, like is near the beach where people are swimming, and it would show up and attack them and kill them. And I was like, that's scary. And I still have the visual image of my head. I still have a visual like thought, like the image in my head. I still have it. And it was just basically like a blue shark just jumping out of the water and trying to grab little children, and they would run away on the beach as the shark would just float back. This was my 5-year-old's thoughts. But I did watch at what?
Just laughing at you. Go on.
But then I did watch that at that movie night, and I said I won't be scared. Guess what?
And then I was scared.
Yeah, and it was funny because like the only thing I was truly scared of was Ben Gardner's head popping out.
Oh yes.
And I remember my mom tucking me to bed, and I still remember like just having the flashback of his head and Hooper like pointing the flashlight. When I was 5, I think, or 6, it might have been, and I've had trauma ever since.
There we go. I have seen Jaws on the big screen. I did a double feature of Jaws followed by Jurassic Park, and it was great.
That sounds awesome.
It was terrific. It was at the what's it called? The
Prince
Prince Charles
Charles?
Cinema. Yep,
See,
in
I
Leicester
know,
Square.
I know.
Frank, it still scares you, or just brings you back to that moment?
It doesn't scare me. I'm not scared of the movie anymore. I love the movie, but I just, after I see it, I just have this psychological reaction, emotional reaction afterwards. I don't know what it is. It's just, it just makes me feel bad. I just feel depressed.
Okay.
It's weird. It's very weird.
I mean, I sort of get that some movies have a vibe that can
Yeah.
kind of cripple a mood, but Jaws isn't one that doesn't for me. It's
Oh, to
normally
me it
something that's
is.
like nasty and gritty is something that
That's Jaws. Jaws is nasty and gritty. It's got all that
Jaws is
grain.
bright and sunny.
It's not. That's what's
I mean, like,
scary about it. Because there's blood that spills over all the beaches of Amity.
Oh
Do
god.
you see the contrast? That's what sickens me.
Okay, this contrast sickens me. It sickens
Yeah.
me.
It
Oh, that's
sickens me.
hilarious,
It
dude.
disturbs me. That's what's disturbing about Jaws. It's a happy-go-lucky day. It would have been nice unless the giant shark. Remember when the what's his name, the kid, the
Yeah, the boy gets
Baxter
eaten.
kid. Dude. It's like, yeah.
I mean, it's scary, but it's what it is. So I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it.
And then his little floaty thing gets like washed out and washed up onto the beach, and you can see the little bits of blood.
I love it. I love Frank's response. Very weird.
Alex Kittner, the Kittner kid, yeah.
Yeah. I get it though. I do. I have one though. I can't remember it at the moment though. Well, remember it. Remember it. Yeah, I'm the same though, because well, as you, Frank. I can't specifically think of which one, but it's like I can think of that having that feeling with certain films. I didn't finish saying what our future episodes are going to be, so I'll quickly do that. There's a few fun ones coming up. On September 28th, we have another guest with us who does some Star Trek podcasts and stuff like that. We're going to be talking about Star Trek. It's going to be the Star Trek episode.
It's gonna be great. I can't wait. I hope Frank is there because I don't know much about Star Trek. I have such a strange like half knowledge of Star Trek. It's interesting.
Yes.
I'm not against it. I actually quite liked it. I liked everything that I saw, other than maybe
Great.
Into Darkness. Ugh.
Yeah.
Wait. Tell me, what did you think of Beyond?
I enjoyed Beyond for the most part. It's basically the same plot as the first two films.
Okay.
It's probably the most Star Trek-y of the two, of the three rather, of JJ's films. So yeah, I liked it enough, and it was the most Star Trek. Everyone kind of was doing a Star Trek
Because everyone
role.
else, but everyone else would have said it's not the most Star Trek. It's stupid. It's so dumb. It has that motorcycle thing on it.
No, I don't think anyone said that. People were saying that when the trailer was coming out, but when they saw the film, when the film came out, the reception was actually, oh, that motorcycle scene actually worked. Using the
Okay.
Beastie Boys was actually really well done. Yeah, so Beyond really worked. The trailers sold it badly because the trailers, yeah. But
He just said I bought Into Darkness and Blu-ray. It was like
I mean, it was
$4.99.
$4.99. I guess if you want it, $4.99 is not a bad price. If whatever.
am Khan.
Benedict Cumberbatch's Khan was stupid. Didn't like any of that.
We need to
but
get
yes.
more people to join on the comments section because we'd have some fun conversations. Not that we're
We
not
would.
having any now. Where I love it. I love that Frank's here. He's keeping the show going.
You keeping the show
honestly.
going, and the five of the people. If you want to start adding some stuff, add some stuff.
Add some stuff.
No, I mean, like, I don't really. It doesn't bother me if obviously when people like the JJ film, like it's fine. Like I don't mind. Beyond is probably like just a fine action sci-fi thing, but when you try and think of it as a Star Trek movie, it's not very good as a Star Trek movie. And I wrote an article for my blog ages ago, many years ago, when this came out, and I was comparing how J.J. Abrams is terrible with sequels. That I quite enjoyed his first Star Trek movie. For what it was, I was like, yeah, this is all right. This is quite fun.
I never liked it.
It worked for me as a one-off novelty sort of thing. But then Into Darkness came, and I was like, okay, he's just recycled everything from Wrath of Khan, and this is lazy, and I don't like it. And then it dawned on me, obviously, because it was obvious, that The Force Awakens was just an easy hack job of remaking A New Hope. And it's like, he clearly doesn't enjoy doing sequels, because all of his sequels
Because he can't do them.
are copies of something else. I mean, The Rise of Skywalker is The Goonies. You know, it's ridiculous.
It's the Goonies.
It's The Goonies. It is. You know,
I've not heard that comparison.
have you, no, even Red Letter Media made that comparison, but I did think it in the cinema when she's matching up the thing from the blade
That was so
matched with the
stupid.
Death
I
Star
hated it.
that made
Yeah.
no sense at all. Yeah, so that's exactly a line from a scene from the Goonies, and it's just like, this is ridiculous. So yeah, so it was one thing, like, yeah, it's like he just likes to recycle other people's ideas. He doesn't really bring much originality to the table. So yeah, I was very pleased that he was not involved with Beyond in the writing and directing. But also Beyond Into Darkness was written by Orky and Kurtzman, and everything with them is magic blood. Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2, magic blood. Into Darkness, magic blood.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure there was like magic blood elsewhere. They always have magic blood plots.
I
It's
never thought
really
about that.
lazy and annoying, and
I'd rather
terrible.
I'd rather have the giant spiders. You know what I'm talking about with
No, remind me.
Producer.
From Superman Returns.
From Batman. Yeah, no, Batman. John Peters. He used to be a hairstylist for films and TV shows, and then he just turned into a producer.
Right.
And he's a character. He's one of those eccentric characters. There we go.
Yes.
I love that Frank always has to remind me whenever I talk about him. I forget his name, and then Frank's there. John Peters, Philip. John Peters. He was gonna do Superman Lives.
Superman Lives. That's it. Yeah. So Star Trek chat will be a lot of fun. Also, because I think we will tap into kind of current Trek, because me and I don't really like current Trek, but Duncan is he enjoys quite a bit of it, particularly Strange New World. So it's not going to be a heated discussion, but it will be fun chatting about this sort of stuff.
Okay.
Then what I'm really excited about after that is on October 5th. His name is Duncan
If only
Barrett.
it was Duncan Casey. That'd be cool. I would like to have Duncan Casey.
Well, Duncan Barrett's also cool.
No, Duncan Barrett's cool too. Of course he is. I can't wait to talk. 'Cause I know who
but
Duncan Casey is. That's the thing.
I know. But then the last one I'll talk about is October 5th. We are going to do a She-Hulk smash and bash.
Oh
with,
yeah, that one. That's
with an author pal of mine named Nadine Matheson. She's written a really cool book called The Jigsaw Man. It's quite popular all over the place, and she's a new one out as well. But she's an attorney here in the UK, and big comic book fan. Neither of us have enjoyed anything She-Hulky, and also from a lawyer perspective, the show is just a bit terrible. Yeah, so we're going to have a fun time just smashing and bashing She-Hulk for the juvenile crap that it is.
Smash.
So those are kind of the upcoming episodes for the next kind of month and a bit. But then we got other stuff coming in the future. Actually, another good question. What topics or like things would you like us to discuss? Because sometimes the episode doesn't have to be like
Tell us.
fully just like say House of the Dragon. Maybe we can talk about something else as well. But what are other things that you would like us to talk about?
Tell us now.
Or forever hold your peace.
Or forever hold your peace. I've kept my quiet.
Thank you,
I
Chief
have been
Brody
waiting.
Rules. Thank you.
In Azkaban!
For 13 years! Or something like that.
10 years of it! In Azkaban!
Spielberg movies.
I think we should do all the Spielberg movies that I have not seen, such as Empire of the Sun, different movie, Kingdom of the Sun, 1941. Which one else could we do that I've never seen in my life? Color Purple, the original Jurassic Park.
Or should we do the movies that people like and? Okay, Frank likes older stuff. See, this is where we need to balance it, because I like talking older stuff, but we also need something contemporary to offset stuff. Phil Never Saw Always.
Is that a Spielberg movie? I don't know. Always?
Always.
I saw Duel. That was great.
Oh yeah, I want to see. I've always been wanting to see Duel, and I never managed to see it. And I've known of Duel since I was like 9 years old.
Frank,
Always.
gotta go.
Goodbye,
buddy.
Chief
It was
Brody.
nice having you with us.
By Grabthor's hammer. What a saving.
I am almost positive I saw a bit of lightning outside my window. 'Cause
Oh,
there
I
was
guess
a-
that's the sign. That's the sign to retire. I
Bye,
guess that's the
Frank.
sign to retire. Goodbye, Frank. I'll see you later.
So, any final thoughts, Philippe?
Watch watch the House of Dragons. No, House of the Dragon. House of the Dragish.
Yes. I think we will, like
Yes.
with Rings of Power, we'll do like check-ins.
Check-ins.
That won't be as lengthy
agree.
as this.
No,
maybe we'll
but
do
like
like
half of this is just us just talking nonsense, like talking different things.
We have a good 2 hours of us talking House of the Dragon. To be fair. But now there's probably another hour of just nonsense.
Have you seen House of the Dragon? House of the Dragon.
So maybe we'll do like a catch up, a duo episode.
A
where, like,
mustard, a relish.
okay,
Sorry.
maybe we'll
Sorry,
do a duo
sorry,
episode
I'm
where
sorry.
we'll talk about like one half will be Rings of Power, one half will be House of the Dragon. I was gonna say Day of the Dragon.
We
but
can
that's
call it Rings of the Dragon. Oh, Day of the Dragon! I think even Frank knows about Day of the Dragon.
not. Day of the Dragon. That glorious piece of literature. God,
That was good, right?
that was something. That was something.
Definitely something. It's
But
just so
yeah.
funny. I went with it. Like he's like, do an audio. Could you record your voice for the audiobook? Sure thing. I will. You know I will.
Oh man, that was special. Very, very special.
All right. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching.
Yes,
Thank
indeed.
you for being here.
We will see you next week at the same bat
With-
channel and the same bat time.
Paul Bishop.
David Bishop.
I wish you could edit. You can't edit on these streams.
Can't
you?
edit. Can't edit live. Way to go.
I'm bad at names. That's the only thing I have to say. If David Bishop's watching this, I'm bad with names.
He's probably not at the moment, so it's okay.
That's good.
But yeah. So yeah, next week we're back talking the Judge Dredd movies and writing for Judge Dredd with a Judge Dredd writer.
I'm
and
gonna
novelist.
show him my picture of Dredd that I drew.
You should draw some Dredd. You should draw some Dredd next week.
Yeah,
I think that would
I'll
be
do
fun.
that. That's gonna be
That would
good.
be fun. But yeah, so thanks for being with us for 2.5 hours.
I think this is our longest episode yet, huh?
This is our longest episode. I might cut out the Lord of the House of the Dragon stuff and put it out there for people. That's just they don't want to watch 3 hours, 2.5
Yeah,
hours.
makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah. But
All
anyway,
right.
we will see you all later. Good night.
Goodbye, Dragon Riders.
And this ends.